and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the show where trans people talk to you all about all of your questions, anything and everything trans. I am Arden Hart, and with me today is Luxander. What's up, Lux?
Hello, I'm here. Oh man, it's been a week. Anybody else like having a hard time getting any work done? I'm certainly having a hard time.
Yeah, so today, you guys, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're not going to follow the standard format. We're going to do a poll, but it's going to be a lot more casual. We're not going to do team super chats, and we're not doing any debate calls. I want to make space today to talk to you guys in the audience. This show is for trans people today, like only if you're cis and you have a trans like kid in your life, that counts too. But yeah, today's going to be a lot of Trump won. And it's not just a win. It is the best win he could hope for, and probably the worst loss that trans people could hope for. And I don't want to sugarcoat things for you guys, but I do want to make room for what do we do going forward? What does the next 4 years look like? What should we be prioritizing? How are things going to change? You know, here on the network, I don't have a lot of answers for you. A lot of this, I'm just as stumped and still processing as I think a lot of you are. One thing I do want to say off the top is that I think for me, the most important thing is that you people in the audience, you trans and queer people, I'm going to try so hard not to cry today, but I probably will. I'm going to be so straightforward. I want you guys to survive. Living to see the next 4 years, that matters more than absolutely anything. I know we've talked about like electoralism and how if you can stay in a red state as long as you can, to do that, to be the pushback, the vote against things. But I don't want to assume that it's going to get as bad as it could get. But I think it's fair to say that Trump can do just about anything he wants to do right now. And he does have things to consider. That means he can't just round up and murder people, most likely. But I don't think it's worth you risking your health and your safety. You need to survive the next 4 years. And that's going to require, you know, millions of little pocket communities of people who you trust that you can rely on. Yeah, I don't have sugarcoating for you. I think things are bad and we need to look at it, but you know, not all hope is lost. And survival is the paramount that I see right now. So I don't know, Lex, do you have anything you want to try to help with that?
Yeah, so one thing that I think is really important to keep in mind right now for everybody is that like nothing has changed today. Nothing has changed this week. We have this kind of sense of doom, and I think that that is understandable. And we have this anticipation of bad things happening, but like nothing is different today. He has not taken away any of our rights today. Like if you're in a red state, things are not great. I'm not going to advocate for trans people to stay in red states. Even I'm feeling that moment of like, well, couldn't it be better if I stayed? No, is the answer to that question. At least for me in Kansas, like my vote didn't make a little bit of difference, even though I did vote for Kamala Harris. But like, I just want people to keep in mind that like, let's not start catastrophizing the coming things that could happen. We still have the filibuster. I don't know if have we gotten the results on the House yet? Does he have both? Does he have the House and the Senate now?
They haven't called it yet, but it would take a very, very, very positive turn on a dime right now for it to go to us. So probably you might as well consider he has the House.
Sure. Yeah, but like the bad things haven't started to happen yet. We don't know what's going to be like what's going to happen first, how bad is it going to get, like, but keeping in mind that nothing has been lost at this time, at least in the material sense. So just, you know, my whole thing is like, let's keep our heads on straight. Let's keep our chins up. Let's focus on like what we have control over from this point forward, because obviously we cannot go back in the past, there's kind of no point in rehashing like what did Kamala do wrong? You know, we should have had more people voting, like whatever. What's done is done. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I see people in the chat saying the volume was different, so I increased the device volume. For some reason, it was at 30%. So if I'm blowing out your speakers now, I am so sorry. Tell me. And
You are louder now.
I'll try to moderate. I mean, it looks like I'm still not even hitting the yellow. So on the hold on. Let's how is that? That looks
much louder.
Is it too loud or is it better? Sorry to have.
I mean, it's loud in my ear, but I had adjusted you already to be loud enough before,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Okay.
Everybody in the chat, let us know. Since we're both talking now, are we at an equal volume?
Yeah, it's got to be much closer now, I imagine. But weirdly, every time I close, let me turn on automatic gain control. Every time I close this setting that I changed, it goes back down to nothing. So now I'm peaking in the red. It's so weird. What is happening? Why is I've had so many tech issues the last few days, you guys. I don't know. It's been really irritating.
When it rains, it pours.
Oh my god. So yeah, we'll look at the polls real quick. There's much like Lux said, I'm honestly not really interested in playing the blame game, playing what went wrong. I think there are some stats like you could look at and try to make conclusions from, but to me, it's not worth it at this point. I think, like you said, look, I don't need to add anything to it. Yeah, you already covered it. Shut the fuck up, Arden. All right. So last week's poll was, we can't give up in the face of fascism. Will you go beyond just voting and volunteer to either phone bank or canvass for Harris in these final days? And with 3.3 thousand votes, 25% said yes. I mean, I expect that not all those people who said yes actually did it. Probably a very small portion. But it's shocking to me. I did more of that stuff than I ever have before this time around. And it's jarring to me how much we lost by. Like, it clearly didn't work. And the strategy has to be so different next time around. I have no idea what to make of it. No idea. Yeah. I feel insane. What are your thoughts?
We still have a lot of votes yet to count, but yeah, 4 million is the difference right now. Like, we still have a lot of votes in California to count, of course, but like, yeah, it was a bigger loss than I would have expected on those numbers. But I didn't volunteer either. I don't know. Like, I have a platform of like 30,000 people where I get several thousand people like watching my videos and stuff. So I guess I'm more of like letting my social anxiety take the better of me and not calling people individually. I ignore the texts that I get. I get election texts and I'm like, I'm just going to ignore this because they're asking me for money. Yeah, I mean, I can completely understand a lot of reasons why people are not interested in doing those things. And again, it like, I think that part of the reason why people go over what could we have done differently in the past is because that's trying to wrest a sense of control regarding what we could do differently in the future. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like maybe doing more of this kind of stuff in the future would be a good idea, especially locally. I think that you make a bigger difference on the local level, like knocking on doors, or even for local elections, like your governor and your House representatives and everything like that. So yeah, I guess I don't have a lot to add on this because I'm like, yeah, it makes sense that most voters are not going to volunteer to do this stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, definitely local helps. And I would like to think this stuff helps. When I was doing it, I was talking to people who they seemed motivated and excited. But I mean, when we look at the voter turnout, it was terrible, guys. I mean, Kamala, I think Biden won by like 81 million votes, and not by 81 million, he got 81 million votes. And I think Harris got like 66 million, like 15 million difference in voter turnout. So clearly it's not doing what we want it to do. And clearly what the right's doing is working to get people motivated and out to the polls. So I'm a little flummoxed, and I think it's going to probably be, honestly, like a year to 2 years of us speculating, planning, and testing out in midterms what can work differently, what's going to be successful, what seats can we turn, if any. But yeah, and then this week's poll, I'm not going to do it in chat. Kind of asking you guys if you voted. I want to know. Actually, you know, I am going to do this one in the chat poll. This isn't going to be a shaming you for not voting thing. I just genuinely want to know. I'll also add a no but ineligible thing. So, because I know we have a lot of out of the US people, and I don't want that to like skew the results. I kind of want to know how many people who could have voted in the US didn't. So yeah, I'll add a no but ineligible. I think I spelled that right.
I've seen people who didn't vote expressing remorse that they didn't, and it's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, what possible outcome could there have been? Like, if you just decided not to, like as annoyed as I am with Kamala and everything that she's said and done over the past 3 months, I still voted for her. I represent that I hate that bee, and I voted for her anyway. Like, God, I don't really know what people expected, but we're interested to know, like, did you vote? And then in the comments, if you want to add, like, I didn't vote because XYZ reason. Like, we're interested in not only knowing like whether or not you voted, but if you didn't vote, what were your motivations or what got in your way? Like, did you send in your ballot, but it got misplaced by the USPS? Like, were you out of state and you couldn't get back in time? I'm interested in knowing if there was some reason behind abstentions, basically. Or like, did you vote down ballot and you decided not to vote for Kamala because of Palestine or whatever? So
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
I mean, I know a lot of people have thought that stance on Palestine is what cost for the election, and I actually don't think that's it from what I'm seeing. I think a lot of the exit polls seem to suggest that they might have thought she was like too far left and that they really wanted to care more about domestic issues. So I'm not really convinced that her stance on Palestine, well, I think ostensibly it should upset Americans. I don't think that was the reason that people didn't get out to vote. I genuinely don't understand. I don't know. And we are going to be paying the price for this for a long time. You know, I will say, I'm trying not to get too negative, but I also think it's important to be realistic. Even if we fix this, I'm not completely sure that a lot of us are going to see the fruits of that labor. I think we will be fighting and clawing our way back from this for most of our lives. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong. But I think a lot of the changes he's going to make are going to be long lasting. And if we claw our way back, it's going to be a lot. But, you know, I mean, that's what this show has always been about. For me, at least, it's always been about, I want the next generation to be better off than I am. And if that means that my life gets worse and that, you know, they still have a net worse thing than I did growing up, but it's better than it is now, then so be it. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm frustrated. We do have some callers on the line, so we can probably get moving to them. Are you ready to take some calls?
Yeah, as much as I would love to just continue hamming with my own personal opinions, we should probably start taking calls.
Yeah, no, I feel that. All right, let's just take them in order since there's not going to be any hardcore anti-trans people today. We're going to talk to you first. John in Washington, pronouns are he, him. John, what's going on? Talk to us.
Hey, Arden. Hey, Lux. First of all, I wanted to let you know I can't hear Lux at all.
Really? Oh, that's a problem. Let me...
I don't think anybody else has said that in the comments.
I'm sure they're saying some great stuff, but I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, the audience can hear, and you can hear me.
Yes.
The right audio bus is checked, so hold on. Let me do some... This might be because during the election stream, I had to change some settings, and it might be that they got fucked up. So... why don't you pitch us, since we can both hear you, John, pitch us your scenario, and I will try to problem solve while you do that.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll do my best to make this as succinct as possible. So I'm a trans man. My wife is a trans woman. And of course, we are living in a blue state, but I do understand that the federal reach can override state things in places. And so I'm a little sick of getting told by my Trump supporting relatives that I'm going to be fine. But my main worry, I understand that it's quite likely that we will lose a lot of rights. We'll lose rights to medication and, certain social protections. But my main worry is I have two little kids. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so I'm worried about the parts of Project 2025 that, like, there's something about, like, registering us as, like, sex offenders. So I don't know if that means they just automatically come and take my kids away. I don't know if they're going to eventually move to, like, rounding us all up and putting us in prison or whatever else. I was raised in a severely abusive household, and I had to kind of pretend to be the way they wanted me to be in order to survive. So my inclination to just pretend to be a cis woman again just to try and get through the next 4 years is very high. I'm like, should I just completely give up on transition to keep my family safe? So I just kind of wanted a sounding board to see, am I going too far off the rails, or I just wanted to hear from some people who are a bit more smart than I am.
Well, don't give us too much credit on intelligence. I do think I solved the issue, so I'm going to have to restart Call in Studio. It should keep you in the room you're in, so you should be able to hear us right away. But actually, Lux, can you say something really quick? Just make sure it hasn't already gone out to John.
Yeah. Can you hear me, John?
Did you hear that?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Let me restart this really quick. If anything happens, call back in. I will just pull you right through to the host room, so we don't even need to worry about it.
Okay, thanks.
We're gonna hear this annoying little.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now. You are connected as the.
Okay, let me mute that for a second while it does its little thing. Yeah, the microphone setting on my browser was wrong.
Audio recording is.
Oh my god, shut up, robot voice. John, can you hear us now?
I can, yes.
Can you hear
Hello,
us?
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Lux.
Okay,
Yay,
thank God.
we
That was
did
an easier fix than I thought. Yeah.
Great job.
Well, I will say, I think you're in Washington. So first of all, that's a good start. I mean, that's a pretty safe state. I think the big protection against things like this, if they happen, because I'm not convinced the worst parts of Project 2025 are going to become a reality. But I will say, even some of the cronies of Trump's, campaign, doing some of their field operations and stuff, have already said, okay, now that the election's over, let's just admit that Project 2025 is the agenda, LOL. Being in a safe city is also really big. Having like a mayor or even a elected sheriff who is not going to follow certain orders. I know, like in Austin, for example, we elect our mayor and our sheriff, and they have like this collected thing where they're not arresting people over marijuana crimes or possession in Austin, right? Even though it's against the law in Texas, they have like a local directive to not enforce certain things, and that is happening in a lot of states. Those are like those sanctuary cities and things like that. Probably the first move I would say is, you guys are going to hear this a lot. I realize it's so privileged. Not everyone can just move, but the most important thing is being in a safe location, in my opinion. So I hope you are somewhere that is safe, John. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think I don't think it's going to get quite to that stage, at least not right away. But I want to be realistic. Like, I think there is a chance that all of us are going to lose access to healthcare, or the doctors who, like, something that, what's his name? RFK, Brainworm guy, has been saying is like, oh, well, I'm not going to force people to do certain things. I'm just going to remind them of their legal obligation to their patients. I suspect we're going to be in a situation like that, where they're not going to block trans healthcare. They're just going to remind doctors that if they do it, they could be arrested and charged with, whatever crime. We might have to, even if they take our trans healthcare away, let's say it's the worst scenario, they can't take that we're trans away. So, I don't want us to feel hopeless. We are so much more than our healthcare or the way that we are presented in society. It doesn't take away your value or who you are. I know it's miserable and it's going to be really fucking hard for a lot of people, but I don't know what the solution is. I hope it's not forced detransition, but I really don't know. Lux, what do you think?
So I want to be clear that there's like a states versus federal government thing that's going to happen. And what I'm expecting is that we're going to have some protracted court cases, basically, because, like, okay, if you live in Washington, they have anti-discrimination legislation. Like, there's numerous laws that protect trans people in the state of Washington. So if it becomes like federally, like, I don't even know if there is such a thing for the most part as like federal sex offender crimes. It seems like that's mostly handled state by state. So yeah, like if federally they're like, we're going to try to do such and such, if you're in a blue state, the blue state is going to resist that. I mean, we're looking at this happening with abortion as well. If they pass an anti-abortion legislation at the federal level, well, guess what? Lots of us have constitutions that say we have the right to an abortion. Like, of all the, other things that suck about living in Kansas, we have a constitutional right to an abortion. So you would have to have a protracted legal battle for the the eminency of the federal government to supersede state law. And we already are seeing a situation with cannabis use, for example, where cannabis is illegal at the federal level, but states have legalized it and the federal level is taking a hands-off approach about it. So the question becomes, if there is a conflict, like primarily it's probably going to work through the court systems. Do we really think that the federal government is going to send in the National Guard into Washington to take your kids away from you? Like, that seems really extreme. And I'm not saying that it's outside the realm of possibility, but it seems really, really, really extreme. Like, are members of the military going to agree with that action? Are the generals going to be on board? Like, there are so many steps in between where we are now and trans people having their kids taken away that I want people to generally have this, like, have it in their minds that, like, yeah, it could get that bad, but reasonably, is it going to? Is the writing actually on the wall right now? And I will also say, as a person who lives in Washington, I'm not going to say, oh, you're safe there, whatever. What I am going to say is, you're damn close to Canada. So if it gets to the point, like right now, you can't apply for asylum in Canada as a queer person because there are sanctuary states within the United States. If for some reason that gets superseded and there truly is no safe state in the United States, then Canada will take asylum seekers. But you could also just move to Canada or go on an extended trip there with an Airbnb or something. So I think that there are a lot of options, and I completely recognize people's urge to detransition. Like, I get that. Or sometimes people are like, I'm going to double down on trying to pass now. Either way, I'm going to appear like a cisgender person. So yeah, I don't want people to feel like, oh my God, the world is over, or like, oh my God, my family is threatened, especially if you live in a blue state. But like, obviously I can't guarantee anything. I just think that we need to keep our heads on straight and be like, realistically, what's going to happen within the next year? And can you plan like well, if things do suddenly get pretty bad, can we sell our house and move, or something along those lines? And I will also add on to what Arden was saying about like, not everybody can afford to move. It's not even a matter of can you afford to move to me. If you need to move, sell all your shit. If you need to just put your human body and the clothes on your back in your car and drive to Portland where you can crash on someone's couch for a few weeks, that's the situation that we're in. It's not a privileged, I'm moving across the situation.
Yeah.
It's a refugee situation.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that because, like I said, I was just trying to figure out, am I jumping the gun with my fear or not? Because, like I said, I grew up in a bad situation, so it's hard for me to sometimes figure out what's life and death and what's just sucky. But of course, now having my kids, of course, I want to take zero chances with their safety and their future. But if I could ask one more quick question.
Please.
So we had planned to, my wife and I had planned to change our names this fall after the election, hoping it was going to go well. But we're kind of debating on whether or not to do that now. Does that out us as trans more? Would that be unsafe to do? Or should we do it now while we still have the right? But if we do it, does that mean that we, if it takes like 4 to 6 weeks and we only have a couple of weeks until Trump's president again, then will we be able to get our passports in our new name, that type of situation? So I was just kind of curious what your advice would be in that regard, I guess.
Do it now. That's my advice. Do it now while you still can. Absolutely. Get all of that stuff in. I also am going to be hopefully getting that stuff sorted. I mean, 4 to 6 weeks for it to come in, but the application is usually pretty straightforward. And right now, federally, they have good trans laws on like passports. So I would definitely recommend getting that done now. And obviously, they could invalidate our IDs. I mean, like when they talked about this, like no federally recognized trans identities thing, that could go one of two ways. They could invalidate all of our IDs right away, which seems to me to be the unlikely scenario. I think that's going to be much more difficult for them and cumbersome to track down every gender changed ID and submit a real one, quote unquote. What's more likely is they're going to let all of those things expire, and then you just won't be able to have it reflect who you truly are when it's renewed. So I think you probably need to do as much of that stuff as you can now.
Okay. Do you think it's necessary to do like the birth certificate and stuff too? My birth certificate's in Ohio.
I mean, I think that the more congruent your identity documents are, the easier it will be to immigrate if that becomes necessary. Although you can hold on to the documentation, like I'm sure you'll have a document that says, I changed my name from this to this. Here's my court order document. You can carry that along with your birth certificate and your current ID. So that, like, basically just have all of the documentation for the whole process together. And then there's less of a chance of there being some kind of issue with it. But if you're immigrating to somewhere that is pro-trans, they might also be like, I understand that you are being politically persecuted and it's hard for you to have accurate documentation. Like, that's the whole point of moving. But yeah, and I will say to the question of like, does changing your name or your gender on your thing, like, does that out you as trans? And the answer is that we live in an insane surveillance state. And any of us who have ever talked about being trans on social media, if they have a list, we're already on it. So I would say don't worry too much about like, is doing this next thing going to make it more obvious that I'm trans? Like, I mean, technically, if you live in a state, like in a red state, like my name is on a list somewhere because I changed my legal gender previously. But yeah, I think that like any concern about, is there something I could do from now that would make me more of a target? The answer is probably not.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Do you think we'll see the writing on the wall if we need to evacuate? Do you think we'll see in time?
I mean, it's a bureaucratic process. I don't think that a lot of these things can be done without at least some amount of like, well, this law has just passed and they typically don't go into effect until like it corresponds with this other law expiring or whatever. So I think like, we'll probably have at least some warning, but getting all of the documentation together is like, it's part of basically having a go bag where you're like, I could, if I don't have very much notice, pack the suitcase, or the suitcase is already packed, and just kind of get things moving from there. So, I mean, if you're anxious about that possibility, I think one of the best things to do for your anxiety is to get all of your shit together. Like, get all your shit and put it together in one place, so that, you know, you have that assurance that even if things go south very quickly, you can be like, well, I'm confident that I have everything that I need to just keep it moving.
Yeah, this is no longer doomsday prepping. This is rationally examining the situation and being ready for it, whichever way it goes. Like, I hope none of us ever have to use our go bags. I hope that what rails remain in our government, whether or not he wins the House, are sufficient that we can get through the next 4 years without needing our go bags. But I think probably a good idea that each trans person has one. Completely agree. If you go with this clothes on your back, that is what you have to do to survive sometimes. And, it's not deal. Nobody wants us to be here, but it's where we are. So take care of yourself.
Right. Thank you. And on a positive note, there were the trans women who were elected to, was it the House and the Senate?
I think it was the House.
Sarah McBride, yeah. Was it the House or I don't?
I typically
she's in
assume that
Congress.
it's the House. Yeah, she's in one of them.
Yeah, she's a rep, so she's in the House. Yep.
Amazing to have one human person representing trans people in the federal government. I know that there have been cabinet appointments before, but it's like it feels more legit when they get voted in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's in the House.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely that made me at least a little. It was the bright glimmer, right, in the rest of the crap. So
For sure. So it's not all over.
Well, I think,
like, just keep that in mind. We have wins to count. Like, it remains to be seen how bad things are going to get. I want people to feel proportionately upset. So, like, yes, it sucks. We just learned a lot about the people who we live with in this country, but there are plenty of people who didn't vote and probably aren't hateful bigots, right? So there's 30 million like voting age adults in this country, or 30 million people. And 70 million of them voted for Trump, but that's not like an overwhelming majority. We have lots of support. Zoe Zephyr was reelected in Montana. It's going to be, I don't want to say blanket statement, it's going to be okay, but I want to convey that sentiment that it's probably not going to be nearly as bad as many of us think it will be.
Right. And I'm hoping that there's going to be some good progress made in the midterms in 2 years. But the hard part is, of course, battening down the hatches and getting through 2 years and possibly 4, depending on how the midterms go. But
just look at the government and how it has functioned forever, right? How frustrating is it when Democrats get at least one of the 2 houses of Congress and then don't get anything done, and then there's a bunch of Republicans that come in after the midterms. We know it's all bureaucratic nonsense. We're
Right.
frustrated when Democrats don't get anything done, but realistically, in that 2-year period of time, how much damage can they really do before we likely see somewhat of a blue wave at the midterm elections?
Right. Yeah, and that's what I tried to tell my wife, because she was spiraling a little bit, and I was like, babe, Democrats have controlled things at various times and gotten fuck all done. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
No, you're fine.
Swear
as much as you fucking want.
Okay, thank you. It's a swearing season right now. But I was like, they didn't get shit done. I have to hope that the Democrats that are elected can do the same bullcrap that the Republicans have done previously and just make nothing go through, because they just do all these just stupid nonsense to make nothing go through. And so my hope is that they'll be able to utilize those things to not let all this stuff go through. But yeah, it's been tough. With my entire family voted Trump, and that's real hard to reconcile with. We weren't on very good terms anyway, but there were a couple that still told me how much they loved me and cared about me, even though I'm trans and all that. And so it was just kind of ugh, they didn't even want to hear me or talk about it, or they just wave off my fears, and that was pretty tough. And there are a lot of people out there who are in the same boat, so I know I'm not alone, but it's rough. But there
I'm
are
with you,
lots of
John.
good things. I don't mean all doom and gloom.
I had the same experience. I mean, I was lucky my mom and my stepdad voted Kamala, even though my stepdad's a fucking Republican, but everyone else in my family almost certainly voted Trump, and it fucking sucks that they just don't give a shit about what that means and what it could mean and what it's going to mean. And I feel you. It's rough out here. But best of luck, John. Definitely call back in the future. I'm sure I see Josie's in the chat, and she'll be back here in the next couple weeks, I'm sure, with more politically oriented advice for things. So, if what we gave you was two person, two normal people advice, you can come try to get her specialized advice in the coming weeks.
That sounds great. I'd love to do that. Thanks so much. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thanks, John.
John.
Bye.
Bye.
So we don't really have many announcements. Next week is very sparsely scheduled. We have so much coming on our plate. I know we've got a fundraiser for the Secular Student Alliance on the 16th. So I don't have announcements for you, but definitely like and subscribe. We are not going to do the team competition, but we will still read your super chats. I mean, if you want to send a team super chat, I'm not going to stop you, but we're not going to be
punishment.
Yeah. There's no competition today. So that's all I have. Let's talk to Kitty. Kitty Chick in Oregon, pronouns she, they. You are live on the line with Arden and Lux. What's going on?
Doing well. How about you? As well as I can be. Like I have a bouncing baby in front of me, so that actually makes me do better than most.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. I've had better days, but go for it. What did you call for?
So I wanted to share a little bit of data that I've been doing a lot of data points because I'm a nerd that loves graphs, and just some thoughts on why this happened, and then what my plans are to kind of get through the next 4 years.
Okay, go for it.
So I've been going over all the numbers. So in 2020, there was 168 million registered voters, and we had 155 million cast votes. So out of all of the registered voters in 2020, there was only like 13 million missing voters that didn't vote that year. Mm-hmm. Like that's a really, really low difference of the vote count versus, but usually that's actually pretty commonly near where it turns out when you actually look at the real numbers. That was the first time we reached 160 million registered voters was why it was so big. But it's usually only a difference about 13 to 14 million people that didn't vote. Whereas this year we had 186 million registered voters. We had 144 million cast votes that are like viewable right now. 42 million people didn't vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I said that at the top of the show. You know, the big problem was voter turnout, and while we did a lot of electoralism activism, we were talking to third party or abstainers and trying to convince them that it was in their best interest to vote. Clearly, I think Bernie said it best. The Dems have unfortunately kind of abandoned the working class people. And by, working so closely with a lot of big money donors, I think their interests are just not aligned. And as much as it sucks to say, they didn't do a good enough job getting people out to vote. And don't get me wrong, we needed turnout. No matter how shitty the candidate is, to me, when the opposition is fascism, I'm going to vote for the alternative candidate, even if it's a pile of poop on a sandwich. Like, it doesn't matter. The opposition is so much worse. But most people aren't as involved in politics as we all are. And so if they're not grabbing their attention, that's just where it is. And it fucking sucks. And it means we have to completely change our strategy. Somebody called in jokingly a few weeks ago saying oh, let's make it like a reality TV show. And at the time I was like, wow, how immature. We cannot do that. And now I'm like, nope, actually, fuck it. That caller was completely right. It's got to be a reality TV show. I don't know how else to get the American people's attention. That seems to be the kind of thing they want. So if it's a fucking reality show, then whatever. As long as it gets us voting. Lux, do you have thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's all theater anyway, so you might as well make it a reality TV show. But part of the problem too is that we are tapped in, and it's not even just like we are tapped into the politics stuff, but that conversations about these things happen online. But I don't know if any legacy media talks about the fact that Trump straight up said, you won't have to vote next time. So it's we have this idea that it's Democrats versus fascists. Excuse me, but I don't even know if most people are aware that that's they're like, oh, this idiot who handled COVID poorly, whatever. I don't know that most voters are equipped with the information that is required to even understand the like level that we're at right now. Of course, they some people saw the anti-trans ads that they've dumped a bunch of money into over the past couple of months or whatever. But I think they mostly go like, oh, well, that doesn't really affect me and that's dumb and it doesn't really matter. Like, I just think that most people are not aware of what the stakes are, and they are misogynistic and they are racist, and like Democratic voters don't want to hear things like, I'm going to put a Republican on the cabinet. Like, of course they were annoyed. Of course they didn't show up. Like, it makes perfect sense to me. I'm not saying that it's okay, but it makes perfect sense. Like, it's understandable given that I can understand that other people are working with different information than I am working with. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, to what extent can we really hold people responsible for? It's like, how angry can I be when I see people going to concerts without a mask? Like, I do kind of hold them personally responsible for not being COVID safe, but also, do they have the same information that I have? Like, to some degree, like, I can't necessarily be mad at them personally, even though I am mad at them personally. But this is the whole thing about individualism versus systemic issues. It's not most people's fault that the CDC has just decided to abandon us and that there is no such thing as public health in this country anymore. So anyway, I don't want to get too hung up on that. If you want to tell us what some of your future plans are, Kitty.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I think it was a lot of single issue voters, like just groups of them, like 3 million single issue voters about this item, 1 million single issue voters about that item. That was what led us to this just giant lack of enough voters, because she just had, like, she was suddenly pro-fracking. What? We're the left. Like,
the face that I made when she said that.
All of these things. I just didn't understand it. My plans for the next few years. So I'm in a luckier place than many people, and a lot of my thoughts go out to both the people that have something to build from already. You need to like really focus in the next couple of like year and a half, 2 years. Do everything you can to beautify your property. Do anything you can to try and add value to the property by doing things like maybe planting bamboo if you live in the right climate, planting fruit trees. Do whatever you can to increase the value of your property right now, so that if things get bad, it's fast to sell it for a good profit. And then that gets you out of here if you can. And maybe you can help a couple of other people out on your way. Also, if things don't get as bad as we're hoping for, you might be able to help other people in your area, region, or other people outside of that region get out of bad places, because you might be able to start a small business on your property if you just put the work in. And that's my plan. I'm just going to go hard to the grindstone, keep my head down. I'm going to leave the house very little because I luckily can. And just, we need to keep the activism up and get the vote to be bigger this next time, obviously. And we need to start finding somebody that's actually going to like run for the left already. Like, we need to start looking for a good fit, because obviously it's going to be a JD Vance or JD Vance clone that's running for the next election. And we just don't need that.
I hear you. I'm not completely convinced that a left candidate is what we need from what I've seen. I think we definitely need like kind of like Trump, like a left-leaning populist, but I think they have to care about like domestic issues. You know, they have to be really American-centric, I think, to gain support at a mass level. I mean, I don't know. I want us to be like the shining beacon on a hill, you know, that's like, oh, we're the wealthiest country, but we just hand out everything like candy to the rest of the world. So we all, rising tide lift all ships. That's not what Americans want. Americans want to be the bully at the top of the hill with the biggest stick and all of the rifles, and to say that, you know, we're the kingmakers on planet Earth. So that's at least what it feels like. Sorry, that was really negative random spin. I am a mess. Okay, thank you for calling though, Kitty. We appreciate definitely voter turnout was a problem, and particularly for Kamala, for Democrats. So we got to figure something out. We have 2 years to start to figure out something.
even if it's just convincing people, it doesn't matter how mad you are. Voting is a responsibility. Just vote at all.
I hear you, but I feel like maybe it's just because the line is like a microcosm, but I feel like we were screaming that from the hilltops for the last 2 months on the line, and it didn't matter. And like, to me, like, I think this is activism. We have audience of thousands of people. The line is actually on a really sharp incline in growth right now. We're on 141,000. So we're getting close to 150. We probably will crack it before the end of the year with the rate we just turned up. But like, it's not reaching people. It's not hitting in, deep. They're not internalizing this information and letting it like affect their behavior. So I don't know if the voting responsibility thing is the right angle. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I feel like there's some sort of left-leaning propaganda angle we're going to have to take or something to really get people. I just don't fucking know anymore.
I mean, I know that I was like not the most popular person in the world saying this before, but voting is like this much of what you should be doing. It's like a fraction of a % of what we should be doing. I think the more we focus on things like actually bolstering up our local communities, anarchist Lux time, we need to actually focus on like making sure people in our community are fed and housed. That's going to make a big difference. Like, people who are in unstable situations don't get the privilege of paying attention to politics. Like, people who don't have the internet don't have the privilege of knowing all the things that we know. They can't keep up with the day-to-day minutia, and they're relying on like snippets they see on TV. So like, in my opinion, moving forward, and I appreciate, Kitty, you bringing this up, like this idea of like, what's our plan moving forward? Because that's what's keeping me sane this week. Everybody in chat, like, I'm not going to spend 18 minutes going over everything you could do, but I did that earlier today. If you want to check out my channel and see 18 minutes of me telling you what you need to do over the next couple of years, but like, make a plan, focus locally. And like, there are things that you could do on a local level. Like, you could try to get something put on the ballot referendum for changing the way that the electoral college works in your state. If we switch to a model like Nebraska has, where it's district by district, like, I think 2 of Nebraska's 5 electoral votes are promised to Kamala right now because they changed this system. So if you have a bunch of states like Pennsylvania that are within 2 or 3 points of each other, if you change the electoral college system, I don't think we're going to abolish it, but if we just alter it in this way, then there you go. You have like half of Pennsylvania's electoral votes going to Kamala instead of this winner-take-all system. You can work on these things on the local level in such a way as like you can affect greater change on a broader scale. You just have to get things done in your local communities and care about each other,
Yeah, I would also love recommendations from the chat and supers or just in normal chat, but I've been trying to do reading on people who have survived fascist regimes and what the recommendations are. And it is a lot of that. Like those, that's what I was saying. We need 1 million of these little pocket communities of people who are going to watch out for each other. Because I think the more we isolate, the more we get afraid of our community, the worse it's going to get for us, the less power we're going to have to change things. I think we're going to need people, but we're also going to need that community of people who are taking care of each other and will hopefully help convince the rest of the community that it is in their best interest to vote. And I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I do think this is informative. This loss will hopefully teach us a lesson, hopefully teach the Democrats a lesson about how to move forward.
I think it'll teach us a lesson. I don't think the Democrats are going to learn shit, but we'll find out in 2 years.
Yeah. Thank you for calling, Kitty. We're probably going to move on and take the next caller, but if you want to add anything before we go for it.
Oh, just one last thing was that one of the things I do to try and help on a personal level is I just befriend people that are different than me, like very different, don't understand trans people at all. Like I'm an enormous number of people's. You're the first trans person I've ever met, and I try to change their perspective on what it is to have, because most of them just have this one image of what a trans person is, and it's all hysteria. It's nothing real. It's not who we actually are. They don't realize we're just people. And so by putting yourself in situations where they see you're just a person, even if it's just becoming someone's token trans person, that person now has somebody that they know that they're voting to harm when they vote to harm them.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it harder to do the harmful thing, at least. And my mom is a great example of that. She's hardcore Mormon, raised in the Mormon church. Her parents' families helped found the stupid thing. Like, very, very hardcore Mormons. She literally posted about being an independent who was sad that Harris lost.
Yeah. I hope you're right, Kitty. I've seen that a lot in my life, but man, it feels like it's not like that anymore. But I hope you're right. I'm being a little bit doomer, a little bit black pilled today. And I hope chat will bear with me on that. Thank you for calling, Kitty. We appreciate your time.
Have a great day.
You as well.
Bye.
Yeah, I was kind of low-key planning on doing that locally here in Texas. I've got a pretty good community in like the reptile hobby. I know a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of friends in that community, people who know me. And while I have come out here and there to individuals, I don't know how many people actually know. And I was kind of looking forward to like, let me forge these relationships for a few years and like slowly let that information get out and then have that situation like he was talking about. They already like me, they already relate to me, and then they know I'm trans. That is harder for them to work around. But now with what's happening, I'm like, well, on second thought, I don't want fucking anybody in this local area to know. I feel like now I'm like, people, when they come knocking on the doors, I'm going to totally get ratted out. So, yeah, I don't know if,
I think, like, I just want to add on to that, like, this is something that I recommend as well. When we're talking about getting involved in the local community, like, of course, you can join the local Democratic Socialists of America chapter and become directly politically involved in that regard. But you can also, like, something I'm really looking forward to when I move, because there's a lot of great outdoorsy hobbies that you can have in the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to try to join like a hiking group. And if you're into cross stitch, you can join a cross stitch group, or you could go hang out at the local yarn shop, or you could get to know people at the gun range or something. But establishing relationships with people so that they care about what happens to you, you need a community of people around you who, if the worst comes and like they V for Vendetta knock on your door, you need to have neighbors who give a shit about what happens to you. Like, we need to start building a local community that will respond more strongly than the neighbors did in Nazi Germany. You don't want neighbors who are uncomfortable and look the other way when you're being dragged kicking and screaming onto the train or whatever. Like, that's something that I think is important. And like, you can do it the way where like they don't know that you're trans and then you come out to them or whatever, or like you can be, I think Kitty Tick is fairly visibly trans, so it's not something that a lot of us can hide. So if you're like, yeah, you saw me initially and you thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this person, but then it turns out that this person shares a lot of my same values, then yeah, we're going to be in a much better position. And then that enables you to convince them of things if that is something that you can do. And like, yeah, it depends on the person. It depends on the family. Sometimes our own family members don't understand the ramifications of their votes. But just opening the door to those conversations, I think, is like, we have to go from the ground up. We're clearly not succeeding on this like huge nebulous scale of the federal government. So we need to start working smaller.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we definitely need a lot more of that. I also am going to close the lines because we have full lines right now. So I don't know if Jess can hear me. I will send you a message on Discord as well. That means if you're on the lines currently, don't go away. We will get to you. But we have 6 lines full and it is almost an hour into the show. So that should probably take us a nice amount of time to get through.
And I just want to cut in really quick. It's still useful for you all to do the like button. I know that maybe you don't like the situation that we're in, so it's kind of like it feels weird. But if you hit like on the stream, more people will see the message that we're trying to send out, which I think is important even for non-trans people to hear. And you can get your $5 super chats in. That super chats, by the way, Arden and I are both talking about moving across the country potentially. Like, so you're directly financially helping us, as well as supporting the Line Network with your super chats and your memberships and all that stuff. So please, if you have anything to give, don't feel obligated. But if you want to help directly, that's a definite way that you can help directly.
Yeah, definitely. It is greatly appreciated, and the Lion is honestly doing really well. And assuming that we don't get to the jailing any and all dissidents section right away,
Right away.
honestly, Matt and Jimmy broke records for the Line last night for concurrent viewership. The Line is on a really good path up, and I think, we could be doing really well in a few months if we're able to continue voicing our opinions without fear. So yeah, I don't have a moving fund, Nikki Star, but I don't know if I'm quite ready to do that because we haven't decided where we're gonna go yet. There was like 4 or 5 options on the table. Actually, Oregon is on my option because my sibling is in Oregon, and they were like, I will literally buy you a house if you move here. They can't afford a house. I don't know why they said that, but that's what they said. And
just trying to incentivize you.
Yeah, they're trying to incentivize.
And then you're super close to Canada if you need to bug out all the way.
It's true.
And you have at least one very cool person there as well, because that's where I'm heading.
Yeah, it is high on my list of considerations. I just think there's so many factors to consider. And also a thing I'm concerned about is if we're in the worst situation with IDs where they get like forcibly reverted or something. At that point, flying becomes concerning to me. And I would kind of want to maybe be closer to New England where I'm in driving distance of some of my closest loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. And I don't think we're going to have to move by January 20th, per se. That's how I was feeling yesterday. I think there's probably some wiggle room there, but I don't want to futz around on it for too long. So I don't know. We'll think. We appreciate your donations. It just really means a lot. Also, take care of yourselves. While Jimmy would get mad at me for not saying, give me your money. If you need to move, you don't need to send us $100. Please take care of yourselves. Okay.
For sure.
We have 5 more callers on the line. We're going to get to all of you. So coming up next is Giddy in Utah, pronouns he, him, asks, how do you think activism will change? And some more stuff. So Giddy, you are live on the line with Arden and Lux. Why don't you get into it? Give us your thoughts.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we gotcha.
All right, cool. So yeah, thanks for stealing my first question. How do you think activism will change? Do you think in-person protests and marches will become more dangerous? Do you think people need to become more resolved in their current forms of activism? That's a hard word to say. Or is a change in activism needed? So yeah.
Gosh, this is the big one. Will it become more dangerous? Absolutely. That is without a question. It will become more dangerous. I mean, that's the thing Trump's generals and his chief of staff were warning us about in the weeks before the election, which we should have known months before, by the way. Fuck you guys for holding that information to the last second. Just morally repugnant behavior. But yeah, I mean, he's talked about shooting protesters in the legs. I think it is dangerous. And I think most people that go to protests know what the risks are. I've been to a lot of protests where people expected to have their face shoved in the pavement, and I've been to protests where several people came with backpacks for medicine, for like medical supplies, and they got arrested and dragged away for having a backpack. I don't know. It's definitely going to be more dangerous. I don't know exactly how things are going to change. And I don't know if it's going to get to that point right away, because I do think one of the few barriers that Trump will have is that the military doesn't necessarily just do the president's bidding. And while Trump may have a supermajority, I don't think he'll just be able to say, shoot those protesters and they'll listen. They might, but I think the military has slightly more safeguards than our general politics right now. That I don't think it'll get to that stage, but it's going to be more dangerous. You're probably going to be more likely to get arrested. And I think we are going to need to, I don't know what all the solutions are. I'm going to be reading a lot of literature on dealing with this kind of stuff in the coming months and planning and trying to reform my philosophies on this stuff. I don't know, Lex, what do you think?
Yeah, hot take, peaceful protest, no worky. I mean, like, so do something else. Like if your activism has been oriented around protesting and especially like we're just gonna show up and support this concept kind of protesting, like it no worky. It's legal because it no worky. Sorry, we live in an imperialist nation that's authoritarian and it has been for a long time. It no work. So like I said, like my thing is focusing more on local stuff, like actually physically helping people with relocation. And like there's so many people in the chat who are saying like it's out of the question for me to relocate. I'm too poor. We have health issues. It's not possible. We need more on the ground, like helping people move. Like, yeah, you can crash on my couch kind of things. And like, yes, I will pick you up and drive you, or I'll meet you halfway. You know, we need to focus more on things that are actually going to materially help people on the local level. Obviously, if you still feel inclined to protest as a means of making your voice heard, I'm not going to tell you not to, but I'm also going to point out that journalists were being shot in the face with less lethal rubber bullets and losing an eye during the George Floyd protests. So it seems to me as though we do need to start thinking more on the level of like Underground Railroad kinds of activism versus like going to a protest kind of activism. Like most of us are not willing to accept the risk. I mean, I don't know if I want to say most of us. Like a lot of marginalized people like myself are not willing to accept the risk of going to a protest. Like I can't afford to have my face broken, and I also don't want to be arrested and have some cop be like, "Oh, well, you look like this, but your ID says this," and then I'm going to get sexually assaulted by a cop, like, and then put in the wrong jail or something. Like, let's not play that game. So for me, and for a lot of us, I think the risk is going to increase in such a way that we're like, yeah, that's not even really on the table anymore. So I think that there's 1,000,001 things that we could be doing. And like, it looks different for every person too. I want to point that out. Some people are going to be out there, with their guns protecting the drag queen story hour. We've seen that. And some people are going to be medics waiting for you at home. And some people are going to be growing food. Like this requires all different kinds of people doing a lot of different things. So don't feel like you're failing if you can't be out there on the front lines with the black bloc, like that's only one part of this.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that made me sad.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a realist and it's sad
No.
sometimes.
No, I was gonna be sad anyway, so okay. I'm yes. Okay. I got nothing.
If I can help Giddy, I think there was a what's her name? The Daily Show host that's a woman, blonde, Desi?
I don't know what her name is.
She was hosting last night, and they had one of their like people who does these like recurrent bits come on and made a joke about how like this is kind of like expecting you have herpes and not really knowing, and then finally getting those test results and like, yeah, you have herpes, but at least you have herpes. That's how I kind of feel about a lot of this stuff, where I'm like, it was really funny and like framed as like oh my god, that's so bad, why would you say that? But I mean, like it's accurate. I mean, like Desi Lydic, thank you guys. I always forget her name. Terrible. Sorry, I'm a misogynist.
Misogyny.
I know. Nice. Yeah, I mean, like it sucks. It's bad and it's depressing, but like knowing this, I think, and having us all having these conversations is what's going to help us to navigate this time in the future, especially if it gets to a place where we can't be having these conversations as openly. The fact that we had them, we hashed a lot of this stuff out, and we started talking about what that's going to look like is going to allow us to continue to operate even under more harsh conditions. So I definitely think it absolutely, it's going to be, it's not going to look as free and awesome as a protest has been in, decades past. And it hasn't been great in decades past either, right? I mean, like, the gay liberation movement happened because people were getting arrested for wearing clothes. So, like, it's been bad for a while. It got a little bit better, and now it's probably going to get worse again. But, I don't know. I was going to try and put a positive spin on that, but I really can't. It's going to be harder, but I think we can do it. We just have to be talking about it and be on top of it.
Yeah, and I think focus on your strengths. Like, I know it feels like really pessimistic to be like protest doesn't work, but like focus on the things that are within your power and that are your strengths. Like, are you an artist? We need propaganda. Like, we need inspiring art, and we need inspiring music, and we also need people doing the small things like, volunteering to give out coffee at the homeless shelter and volunteering to do dishes at the homeless shelter. Like, sometimes the work that needs to be done is not glamorous. I feel like protest has this like glamorized thing where it's like you're out there on the front lines, you're out there doing it. But like so much of the work that needs to be done is interpersonal. So much of the work that needs to be done has to do with expressing care to the people who are within your orbit. So yeah, like even if you feel like it's not much, you like any little bit that you do, it adds up with everybody doing the little bit that they can do. Like you can't give 100% every day, but if you give a little every day, then that adds up over time. So yeah, I would say as far as activism changing, like we need people to start focusing on their strengths and start like applying that to situations where like, yeah, people need, like, again, if you're a cross stitch person, going back to what I said earlier about like community building, that's a means by which you can create propaganda or create like art that can influence how people feel. That's the best thing about art, that is that it influences how people feel and causes them to think. So yeah, just, think, what am I doing now? Like, what are my strengths? Where could I apply myself, or can I acquire a new skill to apply to this situation? So just takes a little bit every day.
Okay, thank you. I think I needed to hear that. Now I feel, now I don't know what to do with these happy feelings.
Haha, whiplash.
Yeah, right. Well, hold on to them and, use the times when you're not down and beat up about this. Because, by the way, it's totally valid. We just got the results 2 days ago. It's totally valid to be down and defeated for a little while. Like, I think it's okay to not be immediately in activist mode. That's why I'm not having debates on the show today, and why I just wanted to talk to you guys, because I'm still a little defeated. And I just want us to talk internally about what's going on. But like, use this time to like, do whatever it takes to make you feel better and get to a place where you can be like, okay, I processed it. I've had those dark feelings. I've reconciled with what the reality of the situation is. Now what can I do? And, start taking action, whether that's informing yourself or doing any of the direct action stuff Lux mentioned.
Okay, I guess, thank you. I have a warm feeling in my chest now that I haven't felt in quite a while. I mean, I guess I felt a lot. Anyway, I'm gonna go so I can feel feelings. Thank you.
You
All
go
right,
feel
Katie,
feelings,
thanks for calling
Kitty.
in.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
After you said give a little bit, I've now got Give a Little Bit by Supertramp in my head. And
Aha!
so it's such a positive song, and I do not feel any positivity right now. So there is a cognitive dissonance of clashing. Also, we had like 5 callers when we took Giddy, and 2 of them dropped. So we now only have 3 calls. Let me double check if Jess is still here. Maybe I'll open the line for like one more caller. Let me see. Would you be good to screen one more? I know Jess can probably hear me because I don't think she's screening somebody right this second. So, yeah, I'll wait to see what she has. But until I hear back from her, it's totally valid. If not, Jess, don't feel pressured. You did good. We've got plenty of calls. Still take us a while. I just figured, why not? So up next we have, I'm totally gonna mispronounce his name, Kaena, him in Hawaii. Please correct me. Please tell me why I pronounced that wrong and how to do it correctly so I can respect you, because I know I butchered it. But you're talking to Arden and Lux on the line. What's up?
Hi. No, you pronounced it pretty well. It's just
Yes.
Kaena.
Kaena. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And it's funny, even growing up in Hawaii, you pronounced it better than a lot of the people that I've met. So that's quite a good pronunciation. I basically just wanted to talk about like trying to keep things in perspective of what Trump's presidency was like last time. Basically that like it was only 2 years after Trump's first win that we had the biggest, like we won the House. Democrats won the House by the largest margin in like recent history. And while it may feel like, this is sort of like the end and that now, Trump's not in power until January 20th, but like after January 20th, it's just going to be downhill from there when we've shown in the past that it's not necessarily just going to be downhill. And if we do get the House again, which I'm very much hoping that we will, that I think if we do a lot of good activism from here until then, that surely a felony is impeachment worthy. And he already has 34 of those. So I would assume that it'll be easier to impeach him this time. Just in terms of like the activism that we could be doing from now until then, a lot of that can be in pressuring local lawmakers to, like you guys were talking about earlier, like making elections easier to vote in. Like the fact that we had, however 15 million people less that voted this time as compared to last time, I think was in large part due to the fact that a lot of people just did mail-in voting. And that was such an easy way to vote that it led to a larger turnout than we might have seen in recent, like before that. And especially now that most people live as if we're like COVID's gone already, that a lot of people didn't do the same thing that we did last time. And I think mainly the thing that I wanted to say is that as much as we hate it, we should have some faith in American bureaucracy. Like you were talking about earlier with like how democratic states might not follow along with whatever federal like executive orders or anything like that Trump might do, is that we can still fight back as institutional power within democratic states. And I had a couple of other things, but if you want to just like go off of that so far.
I have thoughts, but Lex, do you want to go?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Arden. You're ready. I'm like,
okay.
My Ritalin is wearing off.
No, it's totally cool. I my clonidine and full throttle 120 milligrams of caffeine are carrying me through.
There you go.
I hear what you're saying, and I definitely don't want to completely have us become disillusioned with institutional politics, because quite frankly, I don't think there's an alternative option for us. I mean, like we've been talking about, absolutely local direct action, working within your community, protecting the people closest to you. That is going to be more valuable in a lot of senses than institutional politics. But I mean, when it comes down to laws on the books, things that actually, are enforceable by the state, that's going to come down to the institution, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I don't want people to become completely disillusioned with the institutions we have, but I also don't think that the way that we advocate for that can look anything like it did this time around, because clearly it is completely failed. And I feel like we need different kinds of candidates. I think the Democrats need to have a completely different strategy. And I really don't think it means going further right, but I do think, unfortunately, that's what they are going to take away from a lot of this. I don't fucking know, man. I completely hear you, and I do think that we could flip things back in the midterms, but also it's important to note that if he does end up with the House, which it seems like he will, that's a supermajority, and Trump is ready this time. Last time, he wasn't ready. Nobody expected him to win, and he didn't expect to win. So there were adults in the room with every time he had a insane fascist dictator impulse, it was getting checked by somebody in the room, and I don't think that's the case this time. So I think we have a very different presidency ahead of us than the 2016 Trump, and I don't fucking know. I'm still stunned on what the solution is. Definitely going to be doing a lot of thinking about this in the coming months, but I hear you. I don't want people to completely forget the system either. I think we have to work to some extent within it. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's important to keep in mind how things went on the previous presidency, as like we can see like what happened then. Although again, like, yeah, if he has both houses of the Congress, then that changes things quite a bit. And like, you know, I'm not saying that there's like not more to be concerned about this time, because last time he wasn't running on Project 2025. Like, we didn't have this for sure. They have a blueprint plan, and he was said day one he's going to do this, that, and the other. But yeah, I agree that there is likely to be more bureaucratic obstruction than we are accounting for. You know, like, okay, if he does such and such, then the states are going to sue him, and then we have to go through this and blah blah blah. And you know, is the Supreme Court going to like contravene what it has previously said? Like, this is the question that we have about like trans people having 14th Amendment protections. If they previously said that, like very recently previously said that being trans is a type, like it being discriminated against because you're trans is a type of sex discrimination, are they gonna like 180 that? It seems fairly unlikely for them to directly contradict themselves, but like, it's hard to say what's gonna happen. And that's, I completely understand a lot of people having a lot of anxiety about this, because it's like, why are we in a situation where it's this difficult to figure out what's going to happen? Why is our election a coin flip right now? Like, I understand people's frustration with that, but I do see that there is likely to be more bureaucracy on our side in this situation, just given what we've seen in the past. And, you know, if we have the blue wave in 2 years, then there will be, like, it will be more difficult for them to enact the changes that they're trying to change. And like, if they pass executive things, then if there's a Democrat who comes in next, they can just undo that all over again. So yeah, as frustrating as the bureaucracy is, it may be on our side in some cases.
Yeah, and I think just on the comment of the institutions, I think when we think about the institutional like discrimination or bias, that even though the institutions themselves are biased due to like historical reasons, like we see with like housing and the legal system, a lot of the people within the institutions aren't necessarily ideologically captured, and would, for example, resign, like how even a lot of Republican people that like Barr, for example, resigned in December, and because Trump was going to appoint like an environmental lawyer to try to look for election fraud, and basically they had a meeting with the Justice Department, like the Justice Department, and they were all threatening to resign, and that's basically one of the huge reasons why like the election, like the false elector slate and all that didn't go through, was because there was, even though when we think about these institutions as biased, it's true, but there's a lot of good people, I think, within these institutions that would put a lot of pressure against the sort of Trump authoritarianness. And I think well, what you guys are saying is true, definitely, about like the how electionism and like voting is like, it's the last step in the process, and how we need to find a new message and a new way to appeal to voters. I think we need like a left-wing media sphere to compete with like the monster that right-wing media has become. And part of that, I think, is moving away from traditional media, because the right wing has obviously had a lot of success with moving towards like podcasts and, you know, subscriber-based internet streaming services like the Daily Wire, and how like we, for some reason on the left, we still go to like CNN, MSNBC, NBC for like our, you know, like the New York Times, even though like Washington Post, but now the Washington Post belongs to Jeff Bezos and won't even do like a good thing for Kamala, because for whatever reason, even though Elon is $75 million to Trump or whatever. But I think a huge part of that needs to be recognizing that politics isn't about truth, and Democrats need to stop acting like it is, because it's obviously not anymore. If somebody like Trump, with 34 felony convictions, all of these horrible, horrible things being said about him by his previous people that were in his election, that were picked by him, his personal lawyers are getting disbarred, all these different things. it's obviously true that the American people do not care about truth anymore. And so I don't know what that looks like coming from a left-wing angle. Obviously, the right has their conspiracies and all that, but I don't know how we can take advantage of that from the left angle.
Yeah, I do think you're completely right, unfortunately, about the truth thing. That clearly doesn't work. And it frustrates me because, honestly, I care so much about truth that when I see people like Brian Tyler Cohen, for example, posting 5 times a day, like, oh, this ended the Trump campaign, I roll my eyes and I'm like, that's so stupid. It's clickbait. Like, I'm so annoyed. But he has millions and millions of subscribers. So clearly that's more effective. And when I'm looking back on like the stretch of Kamala's campaign, the things that were effective were Walz offhandedly saying in an interview, they're weird. And Kamala saying, do you think you fell out of a coconut tree or what the fuck ever? Those are the things that went viral for weeks that people couldn't stop talking about. It wasn't anything about her policies. And so clearly it is a very different landscape than, what we thought it was. And I mean, some of this makes sense. Like when you're trying to coalesce millions and millions of people behind a single figure, it's like religion, right? You can't, it can't be on the reality or the practicality for most people. It has to be something, I think, more like higher order thinking, like we're talking about like a shared value or a shared, like Marvel movies. Marvel movies are popular because, we can all go watch them and then we can all go talk to each other about what happened and how it relates to the whole Marvel universe. And these are the kind of things that motivate Marvel to be one of the biggest. I mean, it's, maybe not in its heyday right now, but like Agatha was awesome. And like I've been talking to a bunch of friends about Agatha and how good that was. And like I think we definitely need to have more of a cultural phenomenon, a femininomenon, if you will, regarding our politicians in the future. I definitely don't know what it looks like, but I hear you. I don't want to lose faith in the system, but definitely how we use the system cannot look anything like it did in the last 3 election cycles. Like, I genuinely think people just voted for Biden at this point because we were going through COVID and it sucked and people were miserable and they were like, well, Trump's really annoying and kind of crude and this has been bad, so let's vote for the other guy. I don't think it was as deep as it is for me or a lot of the people watching the show, or maybe you, Kayana. I think it's a lot more trivial a lot of the time, and that's why people just didn't turn out for Kamala. I mean, I think racism and sexism play a part in it, but I do think a lot of it is just we can't be, I don't know, we can't be realistic about the existential threat to democracy. That's not what people care about for some reason. It has to be something stupid like Brat Summer. And I love Charlie XCX, don't get me wrong. I'm all about fucking the Brat album, but like that was such a dumb meme, and that is what landed with a lot of people. So I don't fucking know.
I agree that we have a vibes-based electoral system.
Yeah.
Like basically that's what this all kind of comes down to. I mean, I don't know if y'all remember like conversations around Hillary back in the day. Most of the conversation around Hillary wasn't really a substantive like, well, the Clintons have done this and that. They were like, I don't like her. And, like those of us who are more woked are like, okay, well, if I feel put off by a woman, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt and understand that I am influenced by some amount of subconscious misogyny. But like most people don't think that way. They just go like, I don't know. I don't like her. I find her really off-putting. I don't like her smile. I don't like her laugh. It's weird. Like Kamala, I don't like her smile. She's too jovial, whatever. It's vibes based. And I think, unintentionally, maybe, Arden, you hit on something that is, I think, pretty critical. Narrative. Like there has to be a narrative that people can buy into. Like with the Marvel universe, you're like, okay, how does this affect this other thing and this other character? And like, ooh, did you catch this Easter egg? Like, this is kind of what we need. And that's why it plays into your comment about the reality show as well earlier, that like we need a strong narrative. It's like they said at the end of Game of Thrones, story is the most important thing. We have to sell some kind of narrative and story that people can buy into and talk about, and something that they feel that they can personally connect to. We connect to Marvel movies because they kind of blandly appeal to these ideals of like loyalty and doing the right thing and self-sacrifice and stuff like that. And we resonate with that because we want to imagine that there is a hero who's going to embody those values and is going to save us and like carry us away on their on their flying cape or whatever. And I think that that's the kind of direction that we ought to go with politics. Like, I don't see another way of succeeding with this for us in the future. Like, unless we can get around a candidate like Tim. Okay, I'm gonna do the thing that I said that I wasn't going to do. If we had run Tim Walz, the vibes would have been on point. I think that like he saved Kamala's campaign in some ways. So if we were to run someone like that, who's like, yeah, I'm just a guy and I like my guns and I like my car and I want your kids to have food at school and stuff like that. I think that's the direction we need to go. We need someone we can place faith in.
Do you have
Yeah,
anything? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's just, yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think honestly, I think Kamala did like the best that she could have with 100 days. I think if Biden had stepped back in 2023 and given Kamala a year to campaign like how Trump had, or put Walz up there instead of Kamala and had Kamala as his VP. Although I don't know how I would feel about
yeah, I would feel a little sexist, racist kind of vibes when I'm like, oh yeah, let's make her the VP to another white guy.
But also, that's what this country is.
It's true. It's true.
We have to live in the reality of where we live.
No, it is true. Yeah.
But I think you definitely hit the head on with like a narrative. And I think even beyond a narrative, we need to give people a role within that narrative, because I think that that's something that makes the right-wing media sphere so tantalizing, is that not only are they given this sort of narrative about the world, about, establishment, and Trump is like the savior, and, all these Christian values that he's going to bring back, and his immigrants, and like it all fits into this wonderful narrative, but it also gives them the role to be like, I'm the one that knows this. I'm the one that, like, all these sheep around me, I'm the one who knows what's right. And so I think that not only do we might have a good narrative already, but I think we also need to focus on giving people within the left the sort of role that they can play that makes it feel like it's affecting the narrative.
Yeah,
I think a Goku that we can all raise our hands to the spirit bomb for. That's what we need.
Exactly.
I think you've definitely hit on something kind of. I don't know what the future holds. I'm saying a lot of I don't knows today, and I realize that's probably annoying to a lot of people. But I mean, I think a lot of us are reeling from like, oh, everything we've known about electoral politics for the last few decades is done. Trump has changed the game. I mean, like fucking Hamilton, he has played by his own rules and completely changed the game for everyone. And the Hamilton musical, I'm not going to pretend that that's necessarily super historically accurate. But in reality, Trump has changed the rules and changed the game. And I think if we don't start playing the game, I think we're going to continue to lose, and it's just going to keep getting worse for us. But yeah, if you have anything else you want to add, Kana, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to probably move on to the next caller. I appreciate the topic, though. I definitely, I thought you were going to be made more annoyingly pro-establishment than you are, but this is actually a really good conversation, so I appreciate it.
No, that was all I had. Thank you both.
Cool. Awesome. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later.
You too. Ahui ho.
All right. I really have to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to queue up the next caller for you and then step away because I'm going to pee my pants. Coming up next is Tegan. She, they in the UK says all of their friends are trans and they were hoping, or all their friends, all their friends are in the US and they were hoping to move here. Now they don't know how to help them or themselves or what to do. So Tegan, you are on the line with Arden and Lux, although just Lux for a second. Why don't you go for it?
Hey, so I guess there's not really like a succinct question or anything. It's just I've wanted to move to America since I was like 5 years old, give or take, because I've got a bunch of extended family over there, and all my friends are over there. And then I guess it's kind of like watching all of this happen is kind of setting fire to all of my future. And then I've had like multiple friends over in the US sort of tell me that they have a not safe for work plans since the election, and it's just like there's nothing I can really tangibly do other than just sort of be like a venting tool for the next 4 years.
I mean, that does help. I will say, like, having someone who understands and is willing to listen can definitely help. I mean, I always suggest to people doing things like if you have, $5 that you can throw in someone's GoFundMe coffers, I completely resonate too. Like, I want to honor the fact that you're saying that, it's not just that you're worried about your friends, it's also that you've envisioned this future for yourself, and now you're kind of having to reconfigure that. Like, I didn't really plan to move away from where I was born. Like, I had this idea that I was most likely going to like stay here and buy a house and be here permanently, and having to give up on that and say goodbye to things has definitely been difficult. So like, I appreciate that you're concerned for your friends, but I just also want to acknowledge that, it's not just that, it's also that your future plans have been disrupted. But yeah, I mean, don't move here. First of all, like, I would say don't do that. You could maybe move to Canada, and that might make some sense. And they're still under the purview of the crown, I think. So maybe it would be easier for you to move there than it would be to move to the US. And I guess maybe none of your trans friends probably want to move to the UK. Otherwise, I was going to say maybe if there's a situation where you can sponsor someone to move there, but the healthcare situation is a little bit crazy for you guys. So yeah, basically, I understand the like long-term feelings of like helplessness, especially for someone far away. And I saw someone in the chat earlier as well was asking like, what can I do if I am not in the United States? How can I help? And I mean, the realistic answer is kind of not that much, except in those interpersonal ways where you're providing support to your friends or offering to help them move. Or, you could, if you relocate to Canada and then your trans friends are trying to get out of the United States, then you're a place for them to land. But, this involves you, making a different long-term plan for yourself and kind of having to decide if your plans to move to the US are no longer in the cards for you. Like, is there something else? Or can you be in the UK and like accept people moving over there? Because I know some people have done that, even though the situation is not great with the NHS. I know some trans people have still moved to the UK. So I don't know, Arden, did I provide you enough context to be able to pitch in on that?
Sure, but yeah, I kind of want to hear what Tegan has to say, because I'm not sure there's much that I would add that's different to what you said. I think you probably heard most of the things that I would think of in that regard. So yeah, what do you think to all that, Tegan?
Yeah, I guess like my wanting to move to the US has never been like logical. But at the same time, I almost want to move there as much as I want to move out of the UK. It feels like already since the election, like all the worst kinds of people in the UK have become pretty emboldened from what's happened. Like, I'm pretty new at my job, and there's one other out trans person there, and we've had to spend like the last 2 days arguing consistently with everybody at work because they all, for some reason, seem to think Trump's the better choice. And yeah, I guess like if I was more financially able, I would help out that way, but it is just kind of like whilst I'm almost consistently burnt out anyway, I'm trying to be like a pseudo therapist for all my friends at the same time, even though it's like all it feels like is sort of, I don't know, weak moral support, because like you can do it, except you know, nobody knows what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't know. I mean, it's kind of contrary to the conversation we were just having about the need for a narrative, and that maybe truth just doesn't matter in the way that it matters to me. But that's why I couldn't come here and tell people it's going to be okay, that it's going to be great, because we got about the worst outcome in this election we could possibly get as far as the body of government, right? And does that mean everything's going to go as worse as it possibly could? Probably not. I mean, almost certainly not. But, you know, it's still, I don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm not going to come here and sugarcoat for our audience that things are going to be great. I don't want them to spiral. That's why I was really focusing on that you guys need to survive. We need to see it through. Queer lives deserve to survive kind of mentality, because that's the closest thing to a positive framework I can come up with right now. But yeah, I feel you. It's defeating to see two of the most powerful governments in the world both take a very anti-trans position, and to know that despite all of the evidence that's pro-trans, I suspect that the US will do something similar to the Cass report in the next 4 years. And while it can't invalidate all of the evidence, they're going to try. They're going to try to at least create something that they can point to justify the worst things. I don't know. It's bad, but you know, like we keep saying, community, having people close to you, people that you care about, people you can trust that will protect you when and if they come knocking. That's what I think matters more than anything right now. I think that's what's going to get people through it, is knowing that they have people on their side, because clearly the government isn't on our side.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I can tell you how defeated you sound in your voice, and I know I'm not helping. I can't spin it positive if it's not positive, you know?
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, no, I didn't really expect there to be like a sort of get out of jail free card for the situation. I guess it's more just sort of throwing my thoughts out there. But,
yeah.
I mean, thanks for listening to them.
That's what the show is for, Tegan. I wanted this episode of the show to be about commiserating and feeling all of that and sitting with that and making space for that, because it sucks, and we're allowed to get defeated and to like sit on our ass for a while and be like, man, I just got knocked the fuck down. As long as you get back up, you know, take the time you need, feel defeated, sit in that. Yeah. Well, cool. If there's anything you want to add, otherwise, I guess we'll take the next callers.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Tegan. I appreciate you calling.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Oh, my heart breaks for her. I can hear the defeat in her voice. And
yeah.
If you guys heard me yesterday, I was like Tegan, like times 5. Yesterday, I was bad. I cried all day yesterday. I mean, like the entire day I was sobbing. It's valid. It's valid.
It's really rough. And I don't have any advice for people who live outside the US. I don't know. You can't really do very much. You can't vote here. You might be able to send money, but the kind of global economy sucks. So, you know, I just feel like keep trucking along. You know, take breaks if you need to be available. Like, you can't just constantly give and give and give and give and give. You have to resuscitate your resources at some point. So if you're offering support to people all the time, at some point you need to just take a step away, maybe a day or two, recuperate, have a hot chocolate, and then become available again, because you can't just empty yourself for the sake of people who you feel have it worse, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I took all of yesterday. My plan was yesterday was like my one day that I get to be a complete mess with no expectation of accomplishing anything. If I needed more time, then sure. But I do feel like giving myself one whole day, I was able to mourn the future that we lost. And I would probably still cry about it, but there's something about being on a show that makes me try to summon my activist part of myself that is problem solving and future focused, and not so much how I feel right now, because it ain't good, folks. Let me tell you. Okay, we have 2 callers left on the line. Let's get to first Kyle, who's been waiting the longest. He, him in Tennessee, and then we'll talk to Hugo after. But Kyle, he, him in Tennessee, says as an ally, he's down about the results, having trouble not just leaving the country, but doesn't want to let people down if he does that. So, Kyle, you are on the line with Arden and Luxander. Talk to us. What's going through your head right now?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for taking the call. I mentioned it. I'm an ally. I live in the Deep South, just het passing. So, like, I have a lot of privilege, I guess. You know, like, I've never been there, but I have a Canadian citizenship. I can move there. And I'm just, I was already going through a hard time. Like, my business had problems in 2024 and stuff. And I already needed a reset. And after these results, I really am, I'm just tired. And I don't know if I have it in me anymore. And I really just want to up stakes and go to another country and be done with it. And there's, you know, this other part of me that just like feels so terrible about myself for even considering that. Like, you know, I am the dude with the gun at the, you know, at the drag event, like protecting my people, protecting my community. And I don't know if I can do it anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I want to validate that feeling. Like, I want to address that, like, meta sense of guilt that you're having. Like, it's okay to feel like you want to give up and then, like, decide what you're going to do with that later. Like, I think you should give yourself a little bit more grace. And I think everybody should give themselves a little bit more grace if you're feeling like, wow, I just need to leave now, but I feel obligated, you know, Like, you can let yourself have that moment where you're like, I acknowledge and accept that I feel like this is pointless. Like, I can accept that I feel disheartened and not judge yourself for feeling that way, because I don't think that's going to help you make your decision for sure. And then you can kind of, once you feel like you're like, all right, I'm not beating myself up for, you know, feeling this way, then I can go like, okay, well, practically speaking, I know I really want to leave the US, and then start sorting out, like, is it practical? And what are you going to be able to accomplish in both places? Like, if you're in the Deep South, you can physically protect people that way. But also, if you move to Canada, Rainbow Railroad, my man, like, you're part of the system that's part of why I'm moving to a progressive area. And I've like, I actually posted on my Facebook this week, like, yo, any of my friends want to come with us after this election result? And I'm genuinely like, if any of the people that I know want to relocate, I'm going to help them do that to the extent that it's possible. Obviously, I'm in the middle of, like, I'm about to spend thousands of dollars moving across the country. And then I would really like to be able to buy a house with some land so that I can, you know, deal with the incoming climate change and food disruptions and stuff. But yeah, like, you can be part of a system that helps people get out, as well as helping people where you are. And I can't tell you what the right answer is, because you're just going to have to really reconcile with yourself, like, personally, where your biggest priorities are. But I don't think you're letting anybody down by moving, as long as you still follow through on, like, helping with mutual aid and, you know, helping, you know, maybe not even necessarily physically relocating people to Canada, but just, you know, you can continue to contribute on the financial basis. And let's be completely honest, Canada, typically only a couple years behind us when it comes to doing insane conservative stuff. So you could potentially also represent like a liberalism and a progressivism within that country. And you can still vote, to be clear. Like, you're still obligated to pay taxes to the United States even if you move, and you can still vote for the president even if you move. So it's not like you're giving up your right to participate in the American process by doing so.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I absolutely agree. I mean, that's, the whole conversation we just ended was this whole, like, it's okay to be defeated. We just got our ass handed to us. And I think it's okay to, like, take a minute to feel that and to feel the weight of wanting to give up. And to, I hope you do get back up and you do keep fighting to some extent, whether it's in, Canada or wherever. But there's so many ways you can be involved. And just because what you're doing now doesn't feel sustainable doesn't mean you have to give up everything. But, like, to the notion of you being the person at the drag shows, like, I've been to several protests with, like, John Brown Gun Club members being, like, the defense that we had, and mad respect to people who do that. Like, that to me was terrifying the first time I went to a rally or a protest where those people were there, and I was like, wow, we have people with weapons ready to defend us. That's the state of things, and their courage was something that I honestly envied. Like, the more out I've been about being trans, the less inclined I felt able to go to, like, real protests, because I think my safety is more at risk now when I go to those things than it used to be. And showing up and being willing to defend people like that takes a massive amount of courage and willingness and risk. Like, you are putting your life at risk when you do that, and that, I think, is noble as fuck. And it makes perfect sense that would have you downtrodden right now. So definitely, take your time, feel the burn, let yourself mourn that, go through that period of intentional mourning, and then figure out what you're going to do. How does all that land with you, Kyle? I realize that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, and kind of like you mentioned, I mean, I think the hardest part for me personally is just that, like, I have been that dude. Like, I absolutely, I have no problem, honestly laying down my life to defend a trans person that I don't even know, because I know that, like, you have to do the right thing for people. But it's just, I've been doing it for so long, but it's good points, that there are still things that I can do, even if I go, and it's not like I would be, the things that I would do would be different, but they wouldn't entirely go away, and I could, still support the people that need support, just, in different ways. So, I would also just like to say, like, as somebody who hasn't gone through what y'all have gone through, and who's just an ally, kind of on the fringes of it, every single person in the community that I've talked with about this, that I've shared these feelings with, has been so nice, and I'm just waiting for one of y'all to tell me I'm a fucking idiot and I can't leave, and I need to stay here. But you're all so kind, and I really appreciate it.
I have seen people on social media saying things like, oh, we can't give up, we have to keep fighting, now's the time to fight. And honestly, nobody's saying that right now to you, and they shouldn't. But honestly, like, while I understand where that's coming from, fuck that right now. We don't have to fight right now. I mean, like, we do have to fight, but yeah, I don't know. I gotta keep saying it. Like, you guys were allowed to be defeated. We're allowed to take a loss on the chin and be like, fuck, we just lost really bad. And, we can sit with that, because if you don't cope with those feelings, if you ignore those, it is going to make your ability to actually do something in the future so much less effective. If you sit here and feel it, and you sit with those emotions, getting back up is going to be a lot easier. You're going to feel a lot more motivated. I woke up this morning feeling not good, but actually ready to solve problems, because yesterday I cried the whole day, and I gave myself that day to be like, this is just bad all day today. I don't have to see the positive side or anything today. That's the valid place to be.
Yeah. And there's a reason why soldiers are mostly people who are in their late teens and early 20s. It's not sustainable to continue, like, fighting every day. your nervous system will frizz out and stop working. So if you've been out there and you've been fighting, like, we rotate skills. You start out, you can put your body on the line when you're younger, and then you get older and suddenly you're like, my knees, and you have to go do something else. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you both so much for your time and everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for your time and everything you do. I likewise appreciate the willingness of allies to go that far. So best of luck. Feel better. Can't promise we're all going to be cheery okay, but, we will endure.
Yeah, great. Thanks again.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye.
I did notice there, and on one of the previous calls, I think the delay has gotten slightly worse recently. So, I apologize to callers about that. I will say that is one other point of positivity that I've heard from people that I actually do resonate with very deeply, and that is the resilience of queer people and trans people in particular. The ability to stay dignified and head up when the world is throwing the worst at you, when the world is constantly telling you that you are not a valuable person and that like all the worst things should befall you because of who you are. The resiliency of queer people in the face of oppression is one of the most inspiring things, and one of the few things that makes me hopeful that no matter how bad it gets, we will continue. We will continue to fight. So, man, I also think something else I heard somebody say was about the capitalist incentive towards pro-queer stuff right now, like RuPaul's Drag Race. Disney just released a show where a character had a big trans rights flag on the wall. Like, it is benefiting capitalists right now in some extent to be pro-LGBT and to be progressive. So that could also be a barrier against the worst outcomes right now. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Anyway, let's take this last caller. Hugo, they in Missouri says how to deal with hatred both outside and internally. That is a big one, Hugo. So definitely going to make space for a lot of feelings. Tell us where you're at. What's going on?
Sorry, there's a delay. Hi, long time viewer, first time caller. Sorry, I'm a little shy. So obviously I'm in Missouri. I'm used to bigotry. I'm openly queer. I am Black. So I'm used to that sort of hatred coming from people. I live in a very red city, Trump flags on every lawn. I'm used to it, but because of the election, my worst fears were kind of like what's it called? It became true. I was hoping it was just my city and it was just bad here, but to know that so million people feel that way about people like me, I have so much hate in my heart now.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead. Finish.
Go
ahead.
I'm not sad because I knew like how people felt about me, but to know that so many people are either just straight up racist and homophobic, transphobic, or don't care about that at all, and it's not a deterrent for them, fills me with so much rage, and I know it's not healthy. I don't want to be like this. And I don't know how to deal with that.
I don't know if it's helpful to say that it's not healthy, Hugo, because rage is a normal human emotion. Anger, resentment towards the lack of compassion that we're experiencing as a people in this country right now, I think is the rational response. I am also full of rage. It's so tempting to want to recommend the worst possible responses to what's going on and to, get into like the revolutionary mindset. Do we burn it all down and pick up our swords and go to battle? I don't think that's where the American people are at yet, and I don't think it's going to end well if we try that. But the rage is justified, and the feelings there are absolutely justified. And I don't think there's anything wrong with you or anything unhealthy about watching the majority of Americans like really show the fuck up for this racist, homophobic, transphobic, fucking sexually abusing monster and saying he's who I want to represent me in government. That is the most rage-inducing thing, and I hope that you don't let that rage like consume you. I hope you let it be fuel in your tank to want to affect change, because I'll tell you that's where I come from. I don't show up here and yell at callers because I just get a real kick out of it. It's because the rage of experiencing bigotry my entire life has been a fuel in my tank to fight and to do what I can to push back on this shit. And I think it's absolutely fucking valid. I know a lot of people don't like anger. They don't like when sometimes we get mad at callers and things, and they think a more measured response is good. But I say fuck that. That to me is civility politics. That is pretending that queer people have to put on this act and be holier than thou to get dignity. Fuck that. I'm angry. We have been treated like garbage, and especially being a Black trans person, I can't even imagine what you feel on a day-to-day basis. I hope that rage motivates you and it doesn't consume you, because it can be a powerful tool, and it's very justified. Lux, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I told Arden before we started the show today that we were basically going to host therapy time for trans people today.
Yeah.
Now it's real. I'm really doing therapy moment here. So just like justified emotions. No. I love being able to share my therapy skills. Actually, peer-to-peer assistance is a big part of the therapy program that I went through. So yeah, emotions can be either justified or unjustified. And, you kind of use your fact-checking skills to determine whether that's proportionate. But like losing something important to you, or someone or yourself being harmed, like these are justifying events, or like evidence-based justifying events for experiencing anger. So what you do with that then is like, okay, if you've determined that it's justified, then you do something to problem solve the anger. You start, combating against whatever it was that caused you to feel that way in the first place. And if you feel that your anger is too big for you to be effective, then you can do the kinds of things that you would do if you decided that the emotion was actually completely unjustified, which is like you act opposite to it. So if you feel like your anger is too big and it's keeping you from being able to be effective, then you can go, okay, well, I'm going to do something that is opposite to my anger. Like I'm going to try to send kind thoughts to that person, or like you basically just like do the opposite of what your anger is telling you to do. And that can bring down the level of intensity, which then enables you to go forth with your problem solving. So yeah, that's kind of, that's where I'm at, is like my emotions are not overwhelming. I'm upset, obviously. Like I haven't cried all day yesterday, but I did cry yesterday. And then from there, like, okay, now that my emotions are down to a proportion where I can manage them and use them as fuel, now I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Is my plan going to change? Like, what am I going to add to my plan? And like, you end up feeling compelled to do things. Like, I'm like not posting these kinds of videos on my YouTube channel anymore, but I posted a political video today to be like, here's all the things that you need to do in order to like actually make things better over the next 4 years. So yeah, as far as skills to handle your emotions, those are some of the recommendations I have. And also, if you're really, really upset, you can also just use distress tolerance skills, like taking a break and checking out and like watching a TV show or going for a drive, getting out of your house and like exposing yourself to some stimulus or something. Like, and then you can regroup and go, okay, now what do I actually need to do in order to problem solve the situation? But yeah, I'm so sorry. In Missouri, it's not like much worse or much better than in Kansas, but like definitely camaraderie for the fact that y'all voted to protect abortion, which is the same thing that we did, but then you voted in this fascist. Like, yeah, it's frustrating. It's incomprehensibly frustrating.
Yeah, we have Andrew Bailey and Josh Harley again, so it's still equilibrium.
Yep.
Yeah, that does help me a lot. I know that anger and this feeling is very useful. It has led revolutions all throughout time, and the hardest part is how to concentrate this anger into a productive just a productive stream for change, and that did help. Thank you. Election day was not good for me. The racists were very, very emboldened. I had pretty much a neo-Nazi like throw change at me at work, so it was not a good day. I had a cop come in and like make fun of queer people, talking about, oh, they're right. So I have a lot of anger, I will say that. But that pretty much answers my first question. Can I ask a small question specifically to Lux?
Go for it.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. Should I stay or should I go? I can confidently say I'm like one of maybe 3 openly trans people in my city, and I'm very open about being queer, and I want to stay here in my heart for all the younger queer people to know that they're not alone and they're not the only ones here, but I don't know if I can emotionally do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't make the decision for you. I can tell you that I don't think things are going to get better in a short period of time. So, I mean, and again, for you as like a Black trans person, it is like you're dealing with compounding difficulties, stuff that I don't even have, like, I can't even imagine dealing with. So, given the fact that it's not just anti-trans rhetoric, but it is also like the deep racism, and like I'm sure people are going to be saying racist things about Kamala if they weren't already. My personal point of view, yeah, my personal point of view is that it would probably be better for you to move, but I also am not going to tell anyone that they should abandon the place that they were born and like feel compelled to do that. Like your family is there, your friends are there. Like my heart, I'm going to leave it here when I move. And that's some sad shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like the prairie is always going to be part of me. And so even if you go, like some part of you is probably going to remain behind. But as far as your personal physical safety, I think that's the thing that you're going to have to prioritize. And you're just going to have to make that judgment based on like what your experiences are like. How likely is it that you're going to be victimized in some form or fashion? And like, if you have the emotional fortitude to continue. Listen, I'm so sorry that you work retail. I'm so glad I don't work retail because I would have hulked out on somebody by now. Having someone throw change on the counter to me is like, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Yeah, that's crazy. So at the very minimum, I would recommend you find a different job. Like a not customer facing job might be better. But yeah,
Okay.
I would say
Thank you so
I can't
much.
make the decision for you, but maybe heavily consider those things for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for the call, and have a good day.
Thank you, Hugo. Best of luck to
Good luck
you.
out there.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah. That's a
I
hard
almost
one.
cried.
I know. I mean, this is something that like always frustrates me with a lot of the immigration rhetoric on the right, is that like most people don't want to leave the place that they were born. Most people want to stay and like build a life around people, because for most human history, people didn't know more than like their little community. We kind of evolved with this sense of like, well, I have roots here, and so I want to build a life here. And yeah, it sucks that we are in this like refugee, fugitive fucking situation for trans people and trans lives. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have so many super chats, and a lot of really high value super chats, like $50 and $100 multiple times over. So thank you guys so much for your kindness. I appreciate that you guys have really seen what was going on here today, and our audience really showed up, and that's also going to make me emotional. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it, because like, I don't know. it's a lot for, I'm sure, a lot of you to send like $100 or $50 or even $10. And I'm really grateful for every penny of that because, yeah, we're looking down a very long path, and it's nice to know that we've got a good community here. All right, let me get these super chats ready. Okay. Boop.
Whee!
Oh, that is not the right one. I must have the wrong input. That must be from last week. Let's try this
If there was going to be a
again.
stream where we had technical issues, I guess it could be this one, you know?
Endless
Like,
technical issues. Oh
might
my
as well.
god.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go first?
Yeah, £5 from Sean Isherwood says, today would have been Brianna Jai's 18th birthday. I can't watch live tonight, unfortunately. Have fun. I'm so sorry Trump got in. It sucks. Y'all are really trying to make me cry right now because I did not know that. That's very sad. Say her name.
Yeah. Oh god, it makes me sick.
Yeah. I think actually I'm gonna go grab my cat, even though he literally just got out of the cat box, and force him to be on camera so that we can all have a little cat moment to be less sad.
That's nice. Some little litter paws. $10 from Credo Mott says, Arden, I need to get in contact with you to volunteer for some call screening or anything to help the line. Yeah, I would recommend emailing. There's an email in the description. You can do Arden at Q&A line, but the general line email, I'm blanking on what the address is, but it's in the description of this video. I would email that email and say that exactly what you said to me in the headline, like interested in volunteering for call screening or something. And then we'll get you in the Discord, send you a little training video. It's pretty straightforward. We definitely need the help in the coming months because we're trying to do some expansion, and my responsibilities are growing and I can't do it all sustainably. So yeah, thank you.
Yep.
We will interest.
$10 from Larry Fishman says, I had my bottom surgery consultation on Friday, and this is my first week out at work. My colleagues have been welcoming. Now I feel like I'm going to die and have to watch all my friends die. Well, don't catastrophize. You get to live, really, now that you're getting your bottom surgery, which congratulations on that. Yeah, I think that we're all going to find that there are more people coming out of the woodwork to support us than there are people who want us to die. So don't do it. Don't do it. You're not allowed to.
Damn right.
Number one, don't die.
Look at that kitty. He's so handsome. Oh my god.
He's so unhappy with me.
He's the kind of cat that I definitely do just want to like put my face in his belly and like motorboat him or something.
Yeah, he's very tolerant though, and we appreciate it.
Oh, $10 from Lady Alice. Do we have plans to preserve this community if Trump tries to take down shows like these? Well, so part of the interest in some of the moving that we're talking about here, moving location, is an interest of preserving this. The line is definitely going to do our best to preserve shows like this. Although trans people's safety is going to come first. And if it's like between getting arrested and doing the show, I think you'll probably cancel the show and have some of our cishet white men hosts do the advocating on our behalf. I trust that a lot of them know their shit and will do a good job. And I think their risk is a lot lower of something bad happening. We haven't sorted out the details yet, a contingency plan, but it is definitely on our minds. We are looking at everything going on.
Like YouTube, if they make queer content illegal, YouTube is going to sue. Like, this is a huge portion of their traffic. Like, I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, there are not very many big video essay channels that aren't by someone who is either trans or queer. Like Bomber Guy, Philosophy Tube, like Vosh, and all these different people are like, I mean, even Jimmy, pansexual Jimmy, like all of us, like so many of these channels, like you would be losing out on so much revenue if you couldn't have queer content on the platform anymore. So keep in mind that, again, as Arden said earlier, with these things being like a profitable thing for companies, corporations may very well be like, yo, actually, we're not gonna permit this or whatever. So don't delete your videos. Don't change anything on your social media. Don't give the fascists things before they actually make it illegal. Don't give them things. They have to take them from you. So same thing with YouTube and everything is like, there's a very good chance that they're gonna come out swinging. Disney coming out swinging.
I hope so. Fucking, they just had the most successful like YouTube show or Disney Plus show in terms of like return viewers for episode over episode with Agatha All Along. And again, Joe Locke is a gay man. I think he's a gay man. I don't think he's non-binary. I should double check that. But I know they're good friends with Dylan Mulvaney, and there was a big trans rights flag in the bedroom of the character. So like, yeah, it is definitely a motivating force in some part for some element of the capitalist system. Also, we have 4 pages of super chats. If it gets up to 5, I might have to bump up the super chat threshold to 10 just so we can get through the episode in a reasonable amount of time. But seriously, so much generosity. I really appreciate it. This one's for you. That's right. I read the last one.
For me, $10 from Yancy Yachechko. Regardless of outcomes, this community is fantastic and I'm so glad I have been introduced to it. You can't worry about what you could have done differently. That way leads to madness. Truly. Thank you for your donation.
Thank you. $10 from Allison Wofford. Time for massive platonic cuddle parties and afterwards resistance. Hell yeah.
With masks and COVID tests. $10 from TaylorMade at 28 says, my heart goes out to all trans folks. Please stay safe. We as a nation have got to improve our education or we will lose everything if it isn't already too late. It's not too late. Promise you. But yes, we probably could fund our public education system. That would probably be a good idea.
Definitely gonna need help if he eliminates the Department of Education. Oh, yay! Puke. $5 from Nathan Polyak. As a cis white dude, I want to apologize and to let you know that you have an ally here. Thank you for your voices and courage. We're in this together. I appreciate it. There's been definitely a lot of solidarity. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. $5 from Hunter Biden's laptops. Lamau. I love you all. Many or maybe most of my friends are trans. I love this community so much. This really sucks. Just know we will not abandon you. Thank you. It does make a lot of difference when allies are on board and, defending us and voting for us. It does make a difference.
Absolutely. $10 from Jen Lynn. Just wanted to spread some love and say I support all my fellow people in the LGBT plus community, non-binary and in the US. It sucks, but we need to hang on. We're valid. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the donation.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter says 72 million Americans voted for Diaper Dawn, and the roughly 27 million eligible Americans who decided to vote thumb up my own ass, y'all can get fucked. I think this is referring to, is this non-voters or third-party voters?
Maybe
I didn't
both.
actually look at. Yeah, maybe the combination thereof. Yeah. Whatever.
I was looking, and while it obviously would make a difference if people didn't vote third party, the margins would be much narrower. I don't think I noticed in a single case, contrary to like the 2000 election, there were a few states like Florida where the amount of third party votes was actually more than the difference between the Dem and the Republican. Could have stopped Bush altogether. I don't know if there was a single state where that was the case in this election, but if I'm wrong, correct me. Obviously would have narrowed the margin. A little bit more turnout could have turned things, but yeah, it wasn't unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. It's still frustrating. People still need to turn out against fascism, but I get it. Yeah.
It was the non-voters. Clarification in chat.
$5 from Alicia on a silver bow. Bacon and eggs walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve breakfast here." Nice. Hashtag I hope my pun gives some smiles. Hashtag it's okay to be sad. Thank you.
Racist against breakfast. €5 from Sale says, to me, USA now looks like Germany in 1934. Please, if you can make backup plans. Don't scoff away worst case scenarios. I love you so much. Be safe. Yes. Things are definitely crazy. Have a go bag and, don't let them catch you slipping.
Yeah. That's why I was saying, be prepared for the worst. Hope it doesn't go there. is kind of my mentality going into this. $9.99 from Brutus Magnuson. Been posting this quote by Brother Ali a lot lately. Ain't nowhere to run. Freedom ain't free. Also, I just lifted weights and signed up for Krav Maga. Being proactive has made me feel better. Yeah, also, on that note, I think it's important to remind people that if RFK Jr. takes over all of our health, our food, and like medical, he's supposed to take charge of a lot of our health agencies. So we're going to need to be very proactive about our own health going forward as well. I eat garbage, right? I probably need to start eating a lot better and walking and things like this. Market. Yeah, we're going to need to take care of ourselves a lot better. So definitely second all that advice.
100 pounds. Thank you so much, Jackie Greenland. That is very generous. We very much appreciate it. Jackie says, I was so disheartened to wake up and see the results after having been in the US only 48 hours earlier. I don't get a say, but it impacts myself and people I care about so much. So please, everyone, stay safe and take this to help with whatever comes next. Thank you. Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't even started to process the international ramifications of a Trump presidency because I'm so concerned about the domestics. But yes, I'm sure all over the world, I'm sure people are worried, and justifiably so, because I mean, America is like the leader. We're the cops of the world. And yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Also, I just took a look at concurrent views out of curiosity. We just smashed a record by like almost 2 times on Takis. There's 840 peak concurrent viewers, 878 actually. Our highest is usually like 450. So thank you so much to everyone who's here. That explains why there are so many super chats coming in. Definitely, if you can, like and subscribe. All of that stuff is going to help us going forward to cope with everything, to be able to get our message out, to hopefully get to places where it's safe to get our message out so that we can continue doing this work here. So thank you guys so much for so many people showing up today. That is crazy. There we go. 5 pounds from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. I know immigrating across an ocean isn't viable for many, but I want to say that Manchester, England is a safe city for trans people. Well, if that is in the cards for you, definitely get to wherever is safest for you. Absolutely.
$10. Thank you from Sanity Sold Separately. Great username. I have to leave my state. When things are hard, you can shut down until you break, or you can open up and love everyone you can. That way the pain doesn't hurt as much and you can grow. I love you all. If you're needing to move, don't feel obligated to donate to us. We very much appreciate it, but we definitely want you all to prioritize taking care of yourselves. But yes, thank you for your donation and thank you for your hopeful message. We appreciate it. Stay strong.
Absolutely. We have 20 pounds from Darren Lacey. American politics is fucking toxic. I live in the UK and it's bizarre to me. Tail 20 pounds? I don't know what tail is.
It's take 20 pounds. It was a typo.
Take. Oh, I see. I thought that was just some weird fucking UK saying that I was not aware of.
Yeah. We're anti Brit Bonger racists here.
That's very true. No, yeah, America is more toxic on everything. I love watching British game shows because people are so kind and helpful on them. Whereas in American shows, they're like, I don't care if I have to use you like a fucking toy to get to the end of this game. It's like, whoa, okay, you guys are fucking insane.
Too kinky for me.
Right.
$5 from Monkey a Typewriter says, I asked Trumper why when they knew that repealing abortion would kill women and children, and his answer was, I vote on small business. 100% American. True. People have dumb fucking reasons for voting for Trump.
That was essentially how my conversation with my dad went, but he didn't even give a reason, like small business. I could have swallowed that pill a little more easily if he was at least like, hey, I'm voting for small business. No, he was just like, I don't care. That reason's not good enough for me. Okay. Easy. $10 from Nadia Yvette Chambers. It is truly so much better than being a hateful bigot when they stand idly by and look the other way while we get mass imprisoned and mass detransitioned. Well, we're not there yet, I will say. But I would rather, honestly, be in the situation we're in and know that we took the right ethical, moral stance, that we did our best to do the right thing, and we just lost, than to like, I don't know, try to be unethical about it. But I fucking
overwhelming. $10 from Cassie S says the next years will be horrible, but I hope that Trump will be so addle-brained and his circle so consumed with palace intrigue and backstabbing that it will be nonstop stepping on rakes for them. We can hope that we are about to see a comedy of errors from this administration, but it, remains to be seen. We can hope that they're so incompetent or that people quit so often or get fired so often that nothing meaningful gets accomplished. That's the best case scenario, I think, here.
Yep. I completely agree. We have 10 pounds from Herbie Shine. I follow Eve on Facebook, and the Trumpists are really proud of not knowing about Project 2025 and deny it exists. They hate the hate they're showing towards us, and Eve is disgusting. I say us, but I'm not American. Yeah, I think I know Promise has a really big platform, and so I know she catches a lot of hate. Promise came out with her name, by the way, on the election show. So if you didn't know that Promise is Eve, we'll be kind of teasing that in so you guys know who she is. But yeah, I mean, it's I know she gets a lot more hate than a lot of people I know because she's got such a big platform on like Instagram and Facebook. So pretty disgusting.
20 pounds from Darren Lacey. Thank you very much. Says American politics is, oh wait, hold on. Did we already do this one? Or no, is it just somebody else also saying American politics is toxic?
Did we? It's the same person. It's a different one, but it's the same person sent it twice. I don't know if that was an accident.
Perhaps a mistake. Oops.
Yeah.
Thank you for your donation. Sorry if YouTube screwed you over and took your money twice.
Yeah. $5 from Alice Rosas. I didn't cry until last night's show. Jimmy saying queer people were turned on by family for Trump. Like brought it all together for me and I broke down. Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect my family to stop being Trump supporters for me. But I think there was part of me that kind of hoped when I reached out that it would be like, they'll see it this time. And they did not. Honestly, that's not even what's made me cry. It's more of the entire country being against us is more of what I think made me cry than I made peace with my family being pieces of shit years ago. Like, it's like, oh, everyone's like that. Okay, well, that's a little more overwhelming.
I just want to reinforce that it was a majority of the people who voted this time, not the majority of everybody.
Yes, absolutely. No, that is so true.
People who just didn't give a shit to vote. So, but
yes.
$5 from Alice Rosas says, I don't think my fam voted at all, but even knowing their opinion about it hurts. Them acting like they care just makes me feel like I'm being rejected. Concept, social consequences. We should start, obviously this is easy for me to say because I just stopped talking to my family a long time ago, but like maybe on your way out of talking to them ever again, you can be like, hey, you're a fucking piece of shit. And this is you having social consequences and you don't ever get to see your kid again or your grandkids because you're a huge piece of shit. Social consequences for being right-wingers. I don't know why people are like, oh, I'm struggling with my relationship with my mom. Cut that bitch off. I don't know what to say to you. Like, stop coddling people. Anyway.
Yeah. The only reason I don't cut my dad off this time is because I really want to be a force for my little brother. I don't want him to think I've abandoned him because I would like him to turn out better than my dad. But I often struggle because I would really like to cut him off. I think he does not deserve an ounce of my time ever again, but
it's a countdown until your brother is out of there, and then you're like, oh, we can all stop talking to that guy.
Yeah, yes. 100 Donkey Kong dollars from Bodybit. I wish I could give all trans people in America a big hug. The fight is not over. You are not alone. Here's a Donkey Kong dollars. I didn't even see that when I started reading. I just did this too many times in a row. That I appreciate it to brighten your day. It did brighten my day. Thank you, Bodybit. I really appreciate it.
$5 from Winking Skeever says, how does our system prevent legitimate votes from not being counted during the official count? I worry that is the reason for low turnout. So to be clear, it just takes a long time to count the votes. California has only reported 55% right now. So that's like several million more votes that are just uncounted. It takes a long time. Like some states have policies where they're not allowed to count votes until, like, they can't even start counting mail-in ballots until after the polls close. So yeah, and it's a process where there's millions and millions and millions and millions of people in this country. So I don't think that we're seeing a situation where there's like millions of uncounted votes and the election would have gone the other way. And there's probably not millions of votes that got burned in ballot boxes or got lost in the mail. I understand the concern, especially because Trump kept saying, oh, they're trying to steal the election, and it would absolutely be on brand for him to do the thing that he's been accusing the Democrats of doing. But we have not enough evidence that there's any kind of shenanigans happening with the vote. So, well, let's just wait for California and fucking Arizona to finish counting their votes, and then we'll see what happened.
Yep. Agree completely. $5 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. I used to be addicted to the hokey pokey, but then I turned myself around. Hashtag we can turn this around.
True.
Nice.
Thank you so much for the very generous $150 donation from Red Shrek. Just says, I wish you the best. Thank you very much. We appreciate that donation. It makes a material difference in the lives of several trans people. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for real. Also, I love your username. Red Shrek is so funny to me.
Yeah. Red Shrek is terrifying conceptually. Like, I mean,
for real.
Just imagine Green Shrek and make him red. Terrifying.
Yikes.
I understand the villagers trying to kill him now.
Suddenly I'm on their side.
Yeah.
$50 from YouTuber Grudge. That also very generous. Thank you. Move soon. Yeah, I definitely sooner than later is the goal. I think it's feasible. It's just going to set back all of my finances and my financial goals massively. But, you know, this is the state we're in now. I mean, like, state, like, conceptually, yeah, it sucks, but I'd rather live than meet my financial goals early, you know? No point in meeting your financial goals if you get arrested or killed.
Oh, gosh. $4.99, thank you very much, from Brutus Magnuson says, worst case, dual citizenship, but come back when you can. Yeah, the temptation to resign my citizenship if I have to fucking vacate to Canada is so strong, but then, like, you don't really have the easy option to come back. So, mostly I want to resign my citizenship because I can't believe that I would still have to pay income taxes if I live in another country. That seems like it should be illegal. But anyway, yeah, dual citizenship.
Okay. Oh, man. System's so exhausting. $4.99 from Louise Richardson. Heavy sigh. We will survive. I believe so, too. I think I realize the temptation to, and I've even said it a couple times today, like, you know, the threat of, like, dying or being arrested. I don't think that's going to happen to most of us, but it will happen to some of us. And I think it's important to recognize that, like, that's why we're having these conversations, because we have to have the awareness and the guardrails to keep us alive. You know, a lot of trans people took their own lives when we were in similar scenarios, you know, in the gay liberation movement early on. A lot of trans people did not make it because the situations were so untenable, but also I think a lot of them took their own lives, at least in part, because they never got to see the world that we have, like that we had until Trump got elected. You know, the notion of trans people being accepted, of having large spread community was completely unthinkable. And we have it now, which means I hope that we're not going to lose as many people. And I think that we'll have a lot more resistance to that complete hopelessness because we know there's community. We know we're out there. We know there's others like us. And we know that we're deserving of dignity and respect. And I think there's a huge resistance against the complete doomerism of what trans people of past have faced. So.
$10 from Ben. I can't move, but I just want to help y'all, even just a little bit. I hope y'all are doing well despite everything. Stay strong and never stop fighting the good fight. Yep. We appreciate your donation. If you can figure out moving, I recommend that you figure it out. But we appreciate you sharing anyway.
Definitely.
Generosity is good.
$50 from Jamie Goodnight. You guys, blown away. Seriously. I'm gender nonconforming and my cousin has always been supportive, yet I found he voted for Trump. I'm unsure of what to do next. Cut him off or stay close. Try to further educate on the harm Trump poses. Any advice is appreciated. Love you both. Don't make yourself you don't have to be the person who converts people. I know people love to cite, what's his name? Is it Daryl something? The black guy who befriended people in the KKK.
Oh, yeah, Daryl. I don't remember the last name, but yeah.
There's a lot of contention about how efficacious he actually was at deconverting people by being their friends. I think it's important that, kind of like let's saying earlier, there should be social consequences if you're going to vote for a fascist. And maybe that worsens political tension, and political divide, and maybe that'll push them further right. But I don't know. I would rather stand for my principles than feel like every person in my life is a project. I don't think that's fair to them or me.
I think, the best thing that you could probably do if you want to retain the relationship is to kindly explain that voting for Trump is a deeply unloving action toward you. And that if that person wants you to feel loved and accepted, they have made a dramatic mistake and you need some time to reevaluate your relationship. And I think that's probably going to be the most effective thing you could possibly say.
Yep.
I think this one's mine. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Anyone interested in finding a place in the woods and building a compound? PNW got some good land and Canada has a backup right there. That's literally my plan. Unless things get so bad that I need to move to Canada. Like literally, I really should just be looking at rentals, but I'm looking at land too. I'm like, where am I going to set down roots here?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the idea.
The frustrating thing is that land is always really cheap, but cost of building is really expensive. So I'll be looking at 30 acres for less than $100,000. Oh my God, that's so tempting. And then
you're like, I have to build a house there.
Yeah, I have to spend a lot more than that to build a house. $5 from Eliash on a silver bow. If you need hiking trail recommendations, I used to hike the Columbia River Gorge or the Oregon side. Eagle Creek is a good one.
Nice.
Right on.
I'm never going to remember that, but thank you anyway for the recommendation.
Ask when you get there, because my sibling is I think part what are the creatures who live in the forest?
Sasquatch.
That's not what I was going with. I was thinking more of from Shakespeare plays and mythology, like a nymph.
Oh, like a dryad?
Nymph? Yeah, something like that. I don't know. They're literally actually. You'd probably get along with them because they went by something moss for a long time. And their whole thing is they like to, sorry, Sam, I'm outing you, be naked and hug moss.
I bet that would feel incredible.
It's a thing. Yeah. They talk about moss content all the time. They were like, my friends need more moss content. So I love them. Fucking little queer weirdo. It's amazing.
Yeah. $10 from Jasmine Bryant. Thank you very much. Says, sorry for dropping my call. Just want to say during this time, it's so important to build community. Local and national trans groups will need support more now than ever. # Team Josie. Come on. You had me up until the end.
For real.
Why would you do this anyway?
I should put a thing in the chat that says we're only going to take super chats of $10 and up going forward. Not because I'm trying to squeeze you guys of money, but because we're literally still on page 3, which means there's at least 40 super chats coming in and they're still coming in. So we can't be here all day. So yeah, let me pin a little thing in I'll send the next one. You can read 2 in a row and that'll give me time to pin this in chat.
Sure. Thank you for the 15 Canadian units from Quantum Chaos. Says, as a Canadian living on the border, I'm ready to Underground Railroad y'all to Canada. Arden, you can bring Matt, but he needs to promise to grow his beard back out. Love you all. Please stay safe out there. I didn't see that Matt shaved his face. I'm sure that was very jarring for everybody.
He did it last night right before the show. He was like, I think I want to get my goatee back. And he was like, I don't want to do it if you really like the beard. And I was like, I like the beard, but you do what you want with your face.
Face.
Yeah, and we compared it to, because we've been watching Ranma. I don't know if it's called Ranma 1/2. It's the remake on Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know about the remake.
Yeah, I don't know if I should give spoilers. Anyway, this is a trope. It was like a comp het lesbian haircut was the joke that he kind of made. like, oh, I just went through a big change. I need to shave my face. Radical change. I get it. $10 from Moonstar. These are scary and uncertain times. Be smart, be safe, and stand together. Thank you so much, Moonstar.
Together strong.
Yeah.
Thank you for the very generous $50 from Nikki. Nikki says, I wanted to spread a tiny bit of positivity where I can find it. My 92-year-old grandmother who doesn't understand trans-related issues and the why and the what, she's supportive and at least more understanding than my own folks. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that your grandma at least is supportive. That's nice.
Yeah, for real. Thank you so much for your kind donation. We got $10 now from Crane Buchen. I don't know how to. This seems German. I'm really sorry. Here's hoping you all are going to survive the next 4 years. Take my money. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fingers crossed. Thank you for your $5 donation from Mr. Boricua. Says, been a space cadet since yesterday morning. Haven't cried yet. Dumb guy programming and autism. It will be a ton of bricks. I fear for her sisters and nibs. Yeah, I can understand that sometimes in order to function, you have to compartmentalize a little bit. So maybe this weekend when you have a little bit of downtime, that's when you get to have your little mentee bee and then configure yourself and be ready to fucking move next week. Just keep things going.
For sure. $5 from Lily. This all feels so weird. I still can't believe this is where we are. Thank you both for being here. Thank you guys for being here. A massive turnout for the audience. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
$10 from Domestic says, thank you for being here, Luxander. Thank you. I don't know why you're snubbing Arden like that, but okay, there we go. We got another one.
Another 10 from Domestic saying, thank you for being here, Arden. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
$20. Thank you very much from Ariana L. Reyes says, my thoughts and feelings are like a roller coaster. Everything is bad. Maybe it won't be that bad, et cetera, et cetera. I should probably leave Texas in either case. I can't argue against that for sure.
Yeah. I definitely think, I don't know, I'm just reiterating things I've said earlier in the show. We used to be like, hey, if you can live in Texas, if you can live in Pennsylvania, if you can live in any state where your vote actually really matters to be an opposition vote, do it. It doesn't matter anymore. Now is about survival. Get out if you can.
Mm-hmm.
100 sex from Peter Flemberg. Late to the party here. What can non-Americans do to help for the next 4 years? Be safe, friends. I think if you have more free speech than we will going forward, using your voice to combat what's happening here, I think is going to be a huge element of that, because I suspect we're going to see a lot of free speech suppression in the next few years. Yeah.
Yep. And what you just did, which is give people money. That's the only other recommendation I really have.
I hate that that's how it is, but the world really does run on money, unfortunately.
It's true. Thank you for the $9.99 from Truth Seeker. They say the Democrats lost because their process was inherently undemocratic. Michelle Obama likely would have recorded more primary votes and almost certainly won the election. Yeah, we can what if all day, Political analysts will be looking at this election for forever, I'm sure.
Yeah, also, Michelle Obama has been very, very, very vocal about how stressful Barack's presidency was and how she would never run for office ever. So it's just not even a feasible alternative outcome. I think, like we said earlier in the show, though, I think it was Lux that said it, Biden absolutely should have dropped out sooner than he did. I think it was going back on his promise to be one-term president is arguably one of the most significant reasons that we lost that. Yeah, I don't know. But there's so many things. Racism, sexism, not appealing to the working class. There's so many reasons we lost. And it's, it should be a wake-up call. $10 from Dade Murphy. I almost gave up on America. They overwhelmingly voted for that fascist, racist, xenophobic, bigoted fat fuck over a black woman, and it wasn't even close.
I'm gonna need y'all to stop making assertions about where the main vote went, because we don't know. California is still 50% not counted, so we don't know how close the oh my God, why am I blanking on this right now? The popular vote. We don't know. You can't compare the popular vote of this election to the popular vote of 2020 because we don't know yet. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah, there's still a lot more votes left to count. And as far as we know right now, Trump hasn't won, like, he has like a similar amount of total votes to he did, I think, in 2020. It might be 2016 that I'm thinking of. Like, he hasn't gained new voters, is what I'm saying, even though like more people turned out to vote for him than Kamala. Yeah.
Yeah.
$5 from Alyssa Silver. Oh no, I read the last one. Sorry.
Whatever. $5 from Alyssa Silverbow says, why did the invisible man leave his wife? He didn't feel seen. Hashtag laughter is the best medicine. Hashtag it's also okay to cry. True. I do appreciate the puns though. Very much.
For real. £5 from PT Gan. Thanks for letting me ramble. Oscillating between sadness and anger. Both fuel the determination to fight back when I can. You're both very inspiring. Well, I'm glad if we can offer you anything, it's inspiration, because I don't have much left to offer you guys other than like that. So thanks.
$10 from Kia Star says, I am not sure what I can do, but I'm in Denver, Colorado, and hope I could be useful in some manner. My heart is broken for my family, friends, and all of you. Yeah, I mean, I would say in Colorado, again, like being accepting to people who are moving to Colorado, because some people are considering moving to Colorado, but also like people are moving toward California and the West Coast. So some folks are going to drive through Denver, probably. There's like, a major highway that drives through there. So you can always offer your couch to people and, like host lunch for people who are on their way through, and just, being there for folks is probably the most important thing we can do for each other right now.
Yep. $10 from Nadia Yvette Chambers again. Why don't people clarify material consequences like imprisonment and potentially forced mastectomies and penectomies? Nobody understands what they're going to take away trans people's rights mean. I don't think that we're likely to see forced surgical reversions, mostly because that would be really expensive, and there's no way that... I think what's more likely is people who, like, for example, breast implants need to be replaced every like 10 years or so. What I think is more likely to see is that they'll just be like, we don't give a fuck if you need them to be replaced. That's your problem, not ours. I don't think we're going to see people being forced to have these surgeries, but I think imprisonment is possible if Project 2025 really goes to the fullest extent that it wants to. I see Matt put something about turnout, but there's a lot of numbers there I don't know if I can process. Must be we got something a little bit wrong about turnout. So, I mean, don't take everything we say without, with a grain of salt, or take everything with a grain of salt. And like Lux said, there's still votes to count. So, things aren't completely in yet.
Thank you for the very generous $50 from Bobtailed Trucker. Says, the best way to have others from other countries help out is to use their social platforms to get people to vote on the issues, regardless of which party it is. Remind them that red and blue are the primary parties and that third parties struggle. Yeah, I mean, like Arden was saying earlier, you can still use your voice. You can donate to people. One of a very influential political voice is John Oliver. He's a U.S. citizen now, but like he's got the authoritative British voice, so use that to your advantage.
Yep, absolutely. We have $5 from Arden. Hey, so I'm a trans woman in the U.S. Navy. What are the chances another trans military ban will happen? Do you think this one will be more extreme this time? I think a trans military ban is probably likely. But I can't say for sure. Obviously, I actually don't think that's been as much in their rhetoric this time as it was last time. But I think he's likely going to try to put back all the things that Biden undid. I really don't know. I mean, this is kind of like reading tea leaves, trying to see the future. I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but I think it's not outside the realm of possibility, and you should be prepared for that reality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. $9.99 from Mandy. Thank you very much. Says, I want to thank you guys doing this week. Is an act of bravery. I had to call my teen siblings, one female and one FTM, to apologize that they will be cleaning up our mess in a few years. I'm so angry. Yeah, I think that's the worst thing when you have young trans people in your life, or even just young people in general in your life, and you just know that they're going to have to take up the mantle. Like, it just feels unfair that children are going to have to take up the fight for us, but that is kind of the nature of fighting against fascism.
Yep. Unfortunately, kind of the human toil in general. I mean, how many generations died because things were bad and we had to just be a stepping stone for the next generation. Just survive was the goal, and hope that the next generation can do better. $10 from Domestic for everyone who is brave. Thank you.
$20. Thank you very much from A Dragon Ate Me. Great name. I don't remember doing that. My parents voted red and somehow think I have nothing to worry about. They knew I was stressed, so I got comforting texts telling me how much they love me on election night, deciding if I'll go no contact or try to talk it out. Yeah, maybe one last time of trying to talk it out, and then explaining to them very carefully that they are at risk of losing you and your relationship with them. But, it's tough. Everybody has to choose for their own family unit.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one advice you can give to allies is please don't give trans people the it's going to be okay talk. Like, to what extent I think we're going to survive, it's not going to be okay. Like, it's going to be hard. And I really hate the sort of patronizing. I got it a little bit from my stepdad because he is a very, very positive person, even though he voted for Kamala despite being a Republican. But I'll say I knew that he totally thought I was right because when I went through the list of this real situation that we're in, he was like, yeah, I didn't expect it to turn out the way I did. And the fact that he didn't immediately push back to me was like, oh, he knows shit's about to go down. It's real. $9.99 from Jason. Got no words, just hugs. Thank you. Oh no.
I tried to swallow my own saliva and then I breathed it in.
Oh, that's the worst. Down the wrong pipe. That's okay.
And I don't have my mute button on right now. Sorry. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter says, I send lots of little chats because I'm an attention whore. Notice me senpai. Thank you, Lux and Arden. I'm still struggling hard, but this was good. Thank you for that. That's very generous. And we do appreciate, we know that all the $5 donations stack up. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Monkey. We have $50 Canadian, alleged dollars from Tim Aruski. Thanks for helping everyone process all the feels today. Stay safe. Yeah, I hope we, I considered canceling today because I knew I was kind of in a black-pilled mindset. But I honestly felt like a lot of you guys are too. And it was probably better to show up and be honest about how I'm feeling. And it's not great. And then, so you guys can be like, oh yeah, no, it really doesn't feel good. But not all hope is lost kind of thing. So,
I hope that folks feel at least a little bit better after the show today.
Yeah.
$10 from MCGM says, I just want to help. I hope I see all of you at the end of this. You all deserve to be here, no matter how bad it gets. None of you deserve any of this. I hope I am able to help in the near future. Thank you for your donation. That's help in the first place. Watching the show is help. Hitting the like button is help. So, let's put our resources into making sure we get through the next several years because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, for sure. $10 from Midwest Fungi Finds. I love that. Ursula K. Le Guin wrote a blog post after the 2016 election. I read it again today and finally broke my numb shock and cried. It's worth a read. Titled 119, The Election, Lao Tzu, A Cup of Water. I'll have to give that a check out. Actually, send the next super chat and then put that in a little window on the side. Otherwise, I will guaranteed forget.
Yeah. $10. Thank you very much. SJL says, I feel closer to depressed than when I got laid off after 35 years and then my father passing within a few weeks, and I'm the least affected demographic. like I was telling Arden earlier, like my partner was telling me that he felt depressed yesterday, and my partner is cishet. Like I was like, why? And it's because, I'm directly affected, but like there are people who care about me and the fact that I'm directly affected. So of course those people are going to be depressed. It makes sense to be like, oh no, now a lot of people that I care about are about to be harmed. That's a justifying event for your emotions. So yeah, I'm sorry that you're feeling bad, but hopefully we can rally and start to, get things done and start to feel a little bit better as we take control over the things we can control.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and depending on how bad the censorship stuff goes, it could be affecting like almost everyone.
That's true.
Obviously, queer people and like people of color the worst, and women, or people who can get pregnant. But yeah, 1999 from JW Edgy, first election after leaving a cult that didn't allow voting. Cried all day yesterday. So glad Josie and everyone else helped me understand why voting Kamala was essential. Wish I could donate more. Everyone stay safe. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Yeah. I think part of my morning also was this is the election I think I worked hardest at in my lifetime so far. And to have it be such a catastrophic loss was like, fuck, man. That's really bad.
Yeah. We tried so hard and got so far, and in the end, it didn't even
matter.
10 pounds from Herbie Shine, thank you very much, says, it's been heartbreaking hearing the fear and anxiety of callers and reading the same in the comments. I wish I could do more to help and support, desperately hoping you'll all be okay. Yeah, it's probably the hardest part for me right this moment is the fact that everybody is feeling very doom, and I don't feel that way, and I'm trying to like commiserate without letting myself get sucked into it. And it's definitely hard to know what to do. And, we're all just doing our best. That's all we can do right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more hopeful after today's show and kind of processing stuff today and like thinking about planning in the future. And a lot of this is stuff we should have been doing more of anyway, like community work and things like that. Those things should have been taking place anyway. And now it's just like, oh, we don't have a choice now. That is the only way we survive now. So,
yep.
Yeah. $10 from Adam D. Sat here for the last hour thinking of something to say. I'm empty. This community feels that emptiness with some love. So there is that. Well, I'm glad we're able to provide with some love and some peace, because we don't need to be empty. We need, feel everything, and then do something about it.
Mm-hmm. $5 again from Monkey at Typewriter says, haha, threshold still $5. I hereby swear to use every ounce of my privilege for the rest of you. I'm a cishet half white guy, so I'm 3/4 oppressor. How dare you? No. Thank you for your dono.
That's some funny math. Yeah, I think that was probably there was 2 more or like 3 more 5s before the check got bumped up. Still 10, by the way. So if you send 5s, they won't get counted, but we appreciate you all the same.
I mean, it'll still count toward the total of the money that we got today, which we deeply appreciate. We just won't be reading them out because we've been doing this for an hour already.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually 5 pages of supers. Takis usually doesn't get more than 2. So you guys fucking turned the fuck out today. It was crazy. 20 pounds from Pommy. Thank you both so much for being there for us. Having the community to rally around and stick together will get us through. Yeah, we'll keep doing this for as long as we can.
$19.99 from John Urich. Thank you. Says, I started HRT yesterday of all days. I almost didn't, but F them, they don't control me. True! They don't control you. Congratulations.
Hell yeah.
On your transanniversary.
Congrats. I'm really excited on your behalf. $5 from Melatonin Ale. Holy shit, why do I keep missing the live notification? Love and hugs, please take my money. Are we doing hashtag Team Danger Noodles today? We're not doing team competition, but the Danger Noodles appreciate your acknowledgement of their snaky goodness.
When you click the bell, make sure you have selected all notifications so that it doesn't decide what to tell you. And also make sure that you have notifications turned on for the YouTube app, because a lot of people don't. So $5 from Lee Kessner says, recommend that everyone buy a top-notch VPN for their computers. Yeah, considering that too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I'm definitely terrified about the surveillance state, but like I don't know what we can realistically do about it.
what we can.
Tech
VPNs
people.
and Signal.
Yeah, tech people, chime in. Solve this problem for us. Is this one me? 10 Australian dollarinos from highest concurrent view count. Has Trump taken credit for it yet? Probably not here.
Oh gosh, $10 from Mo Scoville. Thank you very much. Says, contributing to the new record, a great big digital hug to all of you. I'm going to touch a lot of grass the next few weeks. Highly recommend doing that. Or put your naked body on moss. That is also acceptable.
Right. Thank you, Mo. I appreciate you. It looks like there were actually still more 5s than I realized, but I remember them coming in before, so not this one though. $10 from Jamnico6. I know I said I'd stop with the poop jokes, but Trump got reelected. That right there is the shittiest joke one can think of. No kidding. Hashtag we cannot let hate keep winning. Hashtag team bitternacht.
There we go. You got at least one. $5 from Mr. Boricua says, in case $10 limit hits, y'all have all my hugs. Need to hug my siblings and nibblings, but they're out of state. Third sis and nibblings at least hug. Virtual hugs all around. Parasocial virtual hugs.
For real. $10 from Lord Viren VODs or VODS.
That feels like video on demand.
Oh, okay. It just seems like I've always seen all capitals, so it confused me. The good news and bad news is Americans don't vote for candidates based on policies. 57% for abortion, 56% for marijuana, 56% for Trump in Florida. It would be funny if it wasn't tragic. Yeah, I felt that way about so many things. I would love to laugh about trans stuff, trans experiences, but it's really hard to find a lot of jokes funny when it's like, but that is kind of our material reality, so...
Yay.
Oh boy.
$5 from Josie Caballero says, hey Arden, I hear hashtag Team Josie is winning the vote right now. Glad to see I can still beat the ballot stuffer even off camera. Yeah, true enough.
Some bullshit. Fucking
apparently Josie's the best one.
Fake election. She's got other people in the chat too. I think that we still haven't gotten to. $5 from Melatonin Ally again. Arden, is that Enso circle tattooed on your forearm? Yes, it is. If it is, I have a similar tattoo in the same place. Yeah, I think I got this tattoo when I was kind of in like a pseudo spiritual part of my. I got it right when I turned 18, like the day I turned 18. I was kind of into some woo stuff at the time. I had stopped believing in God and Christianity for sure, but I was kind of into like spirit science and like out of body meditation and shit. I hadn't quite gotten to atheism and skepticism yet, so I don't know. It's on my body. I'm not going to pay for it to be removed.
You can always get a cover up.
I might do a cover up one day.
Getting it removed basically just makes it easier for you to get a cover up anyway. It doesn't make it go away completely.
Right.
$50 from Jamie Goodnight. Thank you very much for that generous donation. Jamie says, thank you so much for the advice. Take my money. Well, nothing I can do about it now. Thank you.
Also, I'm seeing a few 5s come in. I hope you guys know that the super chat threshold got bumped. There is a tagged chat or comment in chat explaining that, but so we're not going to get those, but we appreciate it. I know, I see Larry, spirit science, really? Yeah, it was bad. I was into the really wooey stuff. I mean, like charging crystals, past lives, all of that, but, you know.
We all have our phases.
I gave up Christianity really young. Like, as soon as I could really stop believing like Santa, I was like, okay, God seems like I'm just praying to myself. But I didn't get to skepticism and good thinking right away, clearly. 10 pounds from Lexi Oliver. Our light will just have to shine brighter in the dark times to come. Remember to shine brighter, shout louder for upcoming Trans Day of Remembrance. Yeah. Definitely be as loud as you can safely be.
10 Canadian units from Carm C says, sending all the love from Canada. Thank you for all you do. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. Reinbuchen just donating here. Arden, butcher my name again. It is indeed German. Love you all. Well, you know, I gave it a shot. Hey, I got the one other name from that caller right that I totally thought I was going to absolutely demolish. So I'm proud of myself today.
Yeah, Kaena. I think the only thing that you didn't get was the stop in the middle.
Yeah, the little... I mean, I feel like I've seen more. I don't know what the actual word for the language is. Is it not Hawaiian? Maybe like Polynesian? Was that how you describe the language? I don't know.
I mean, are you
Cancel
thinking of
me.
Maori?
Oh yeah, Maori, Maori. Yeah. I was trying to think of what the name of the actual language and culture was because I didn't think it was Hawaiian. I was like, I think that's kind of our like Englishization of the culture,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. I mean, Polynesia, like Hawaii is part of Polynesian's
like the whole
diaspora.
thing, right? And Maori is like the subset.
Yeah, New Zealand. Yeah.
Right.
100 SEK from Peter Flemberg. Peter? Well, here's some more then. Smiley face. Love you, brave people. Thank you very much. We appreciate your generosity today.
$20 from Ryujin Zero. Standing with you. I appreciate it.
$10. What? From Josie Caballero says, wow, raising the threshold to censor me. Not gonna work, Arden. Hashtag Team Josie is still winning. Hashtag Arden is a ballot stuffer. How dare you?
Oh, so offensive.
Censorship.
Josie, I know better than to think I could ever shut you up. Love you. Insults are my love language. $10 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. My mom died when we couldn't remember her blood type. As she died, she kept telling us to be positive, but it's hard without her. I'm in the mood for dark humor. That was a good one. That actually got me. I was along for the ride until
yeah, I was along for that one. Oh gosh. 1999. Thank you very much, Reptiled, for your generous donation. Says, father of a 17-year-old who's trans. My heart is broken and I'm terrified for them. Thank you for some light. Yeah, it's your job to be strong for them right now. For sure. I hope that you all make it through just fine.
Definitely. $9.99 from Adrian Radis. I'm a female that works in a shop with all males who voted for Trump. I was stuck having to listen to them play Joe Rogan today, saying, finally, we can silence the liberals' voices. Yeah.
What a great goal to have.
It's been bad. I mean, the rhetoric on the right has been truly appalling following this win. And I realize that a lot of it is trolling. They're trying to upset people. They're trying to piss people off. And it's not like super sincere, but it is truly appalling. And I think there should be some deep social consequences. I know a friend of mine on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but Matt showed me, posted ladies, it's time to stop having sex with men. I'm totally not kidding posts. And
next strike, yeah. $10 from Jamnick06 says, thanks for the Linkin Park quote, Lux. I'm going to have to put some of that on and scream along. True. Get it out of your system. Just rage for a few minutes.
Absolutely. I used to be such a Linkin Park fan. 99 from Landon. FYI, great passive aggressive Christmas gift for Republicans in your life is an annual subscription to your preferred local newspaper. I thought about doing something similar. Like, I want to send like books on Christian nationalism to these people. Like, Merry Christmas. They're probably going to throw it away, but just their reaction will be the dollar value for me. I'm like, oh, so worth it.
Yep. And okay, 200. I think that was your first super chat, Lily. Thank you very much. This election result breaks my heart, but you make my faith in humanity come back, sending all the support from Europe. Thank you. We appreciate it. And yeah, I'm glad that we made your faith in humanity a little bit stronger today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Doing our best out here. $10 from Larry Fishman. I'm 19 months into HRT, I'm assuming, and finally feel like my face and body have changed enough for social transition. I hate my old clothes. I'm not letting fascists take over, stop me from swapping wardrobes. Yeah, I mean, that's the next step, right? They have to get to the level of fascism where they're like, oh, I'm going to arrest you for the clothes you wear. Which I think is going to be harder for them to justify. Harder, not impossible, but harder. And that's why I'm like, they may be able to take medicine away from us, but they can't take who we are and the clothes we wear, Small things we got to hold on to.
20 euros. Thank you, Teresa. A lot of me says that preparing a go bag is a real thing. The idea that preparing a go bag is a real thing now makes me sick. Glad you both exist. Yeah, it's not fun. It's also true of people who need to seek abortion. You just got to be ready to go at any given moment. So thank you for your generosity. We appreciate it.
$20 from A Cubed Films. I never get to listen live since I'm at work, but today I put a speaker in my hat. Years ago, Arden was on the AXP and instrumental in helping me recognize a bigotry I didn't even realize I had. Thank you. Well, I'm so glad I could help. I think I was only on AXP like once, so
Nice.
we don't need to go back there again. We got it all right here. No, I appreciate that I was able to help in any kind of way. So, okay, that was in fact the last super chat of
Wow.
almost 100 that we got through. Like probably closer
Wow.
to like 75 or 80. Or sorry, no. It would have been 80 plus like 10, so around 90 super chats. Thank you guys so much. I genuinely appreciate you. And thanks, Lux, for being the one here to do the first show after this election with me. It's a lot, but I do appreciate you and what you brought to the show today. I think you were even less doomer than I am, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not a doomer. Doomer is when you stop on the floor and I'm like, yeah, except that my determination is harder than ever and I'm going to live well and you can claw it from my cold, dead hands. So
Right.
hopefully they don't take that as too much of a challenge, but
For real.
Yep.
Well, take care of yourselves. Start thinking about things, but also give yourself that room, like we talked about, to feel the weight of these results. It's bad, and it's okay to feel bad and to feel defeated. Just make sure you get back up, because a lot of us don't have a choice, and it's going to be rough if we're not out there fighting together. So, yep. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week. We with Lux and Josie, or Lux and myself. I'm not sure which, because I think Ben is still on the move. So anyway, bye guys. If all of you filthy rich people who kept donating to us have any other money you want to give, hold on. Let me turn that music volume down. If you want to go to patreon.com/calltheline, that is the best way to support the entire Line network. You can get your name scrolling up on the list like this, get access to a few little exclusive things, but mostly it is a way to just help us keep the lights on and keep spreading our message. So we appreciate you guys so much, and we will see you all next week. Bye.